Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Why We Love Doctor Who. We're on part 19.2, where we've got to conclude series 9 of New Who, and I'm joined as always by John the White, Burrenjaw, and Golden Age Geek. Good afternoon, good evening, gentlemen, and how are we today?
Hello, Gobby. Hello, everybody. Oh, hello, Burrenjaw. Hello, Golden Age Geek. And hello, Eastland Burkholder, who isn't hallucinating.
She's
She actually
on time.
is on time, and apparently her internet is working decently.
Yes! Get in!
I hope I'm right, but Eastland's a girl. I think that's a kind of girl's name, but I could be wrong. That's a guess.
I think it is, but we're waiting for.
I think so. Right,
I think so.
okay.
I mean, we've got to be careful nowadays. You know, it's like
Have you
Anyone
just
could be called.
offended someone?
Yes.
maybe. Oh, great start.
You know, I mean, I could be called West John. Doesn't mean you can go assuming my gender.
Well, this is true. This is true.
Well, a lot of
Google
people
away,
actually
right?
always. A lot of people on forums where I was also known as Burrenjaw, they always used to think I was a girl. For some reason, I don't know why, they thought it was a girly name, I guess. But, you know, I was misgendered a lot.
Burrenjaw's a girl's name.
It's not, it's the name of a T-Rex that
What?
supposedly lives in
Okay.
Australia, but I don't know.
You know, it's funny. I've been mistaken for Jesus. I've been mistaken for Satan. I've been called every kind of evil under the sun, and praised for my wonderful stuff I've done for the good of humanity. But I've never, ever, 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 ever been mistaken for a girl.
Wow.
Oh,
You haven't
no,
lived
that's
clearly.
not true, actually. That's not true.
Yes.
I remember back when I was a teenager, before I'd passed my driving test, but when I still had rock and roll hair, I was with my mum and dad, and there was a problem with the car. It was a Nissan Sunny, so he drove it around the garage, you know. And because it was my dad, he just left it in the middle of everywhere and just walked off because he was like that, you know. So there was a woman behind who couldn't get past, and she was beeping, and my mum had to, you know, put her head out her window. Like, sorry, I can't move it. He's got it. And she says, "Can't your daughter move it?" Because of course she'd seen my silhouette with my long hair and assumed I was female. So you know, I've just debunked myself. It happened once.
There you go.
I know I couldn't drive, so there.
Now.
But that's the only time I can think of I'm ever aware of being mistaken for a girl. Yes, there you go. I don't even know we're on that topic. Right, where were we? Series 9.
Yes.
Oh, there is some stuff I want to talk about first, though, Gobby. Because observant followers of the stream will notice that a little video went up last week, which was a snippet from the start of the stream a week before, where I was basically, you know, ringing the alarm bell and sounding the gong about Disney. And then I had quite a few people have checked that out last week. That's cool. That's some comments on there. That's even cooler. But I'm just thinking to myself, if I just took all the articles that have gone before my eyes in the last 2 weeks and just put them as comments on that video, go, look, because this is happening amazingly fast.
Really fast.
And we've now got the opening weekend prediction for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Oh dear.
Has been slashed from $100 million domestic inside America and Canada to only $40 million.
$40 million.
This film cost $300 million plus to make.
Yeah, it was
especially because of Kathleen, let's shoot the whole damn movie again. I'm so wastefully stupid, Kennedy.
That's the one.
You know, then you've got to add the marketing budget on top. I mean, analysts are saying this movie has to clear $1 billion.
It's not going to do it. It's not going to do
it. If there is absolutely impossible, but it could do that if it didn't get at least 150 million domestic opening weekend, and it's going to come in. You know, it's going to come in like Lightyear last year.
Yep.
And the consequences for Disney are seismic. They've got Elemental is also just as bad. Another really bad duffer of a Pixar film.
Look how Little Mermaid's doing. Little Mermaid
is just no. Little Mermaid is an interesting one because the marketing of Little Mermaid obviously did make a lot of the fact that they race swapped the main character from the
Yep.
white cartoon to Halle Berry. Like, I mean, they did play that up a lot. They've been using this sort of guilt marketing, sort of like they did with Black Panther, you know, to go and support this to show that you care, sort of business. And it seems to have worked relatively well inside the US. The domestic opening was reasonable, not what Disney needed still, but reasonable.
No.
But the rest of the world has just dropped it. They're just
Yep.
not interested. Yeah,
No one
and
is
you know,
really.
and the word of mouth on the movie is dreadful because it's just so woke and so worthy, but it is just so dull.
Yep.
That's the biggest crime of all. If you ask people for their money to entertain them, and what you serve them up is dull.
Yeah.
And Disney's going to pay for it. They've been paying for it for a long time, but now absolutely nothing has gone right for too long. And there's nothing coming up which is going to help them out either. And
Just
you're going to see investors are going to start jumping ship. The stock price is going to dive even further. Disney's going to go in a spiral, and it's very likely, probably inevitable, that it's going to have to be broken up.
Yeah.
Justice for Gina Carano, I say, after the way they treated her. Fuck them. Honestly, a company founded by a Nazi bastard, have the cheek to call someone a Nazi because they compared people they didn't like to Nazis. I mean, it's like, it's just, so fuck him, fuck him. Also, sorry, do you see the famous one where they refused to let a grieving dad put a picture?
I just checked. It's all right. We're 8 minutes into the stream.
Yes, we're okay.
Phew.
Yes.
That was close.
Yes. Got to be careful. Got to be careful. You can't swear. Mind you, the intro covers us long enough, so we're past the time.
Exactly. We're blagging it with the intro. Yes.
Yes. So I'll be quick. All I was saying was just remember they refused to let. It was a dad whose son had died. His son was only 3. Put a picture of Spider-Man on his son's grave because the wee boy liked Spider-Man. And they said, they didn't want their characters being used that way. It's like, you didn't fucking create Spider-Man, you bastards. It's not your
character. That is one of the worst of the Disney stories. But I mean, there are ones which are far worse. You know, but I mean, it just encapsulates everything about the attitude, doesn't it? Can't put Spider-Man on a kid's grave, you bastards.
The idea they thought Gina Carano would ruin their image, that happened not long before that. And all these woke idiots saying, Disney have an image to protect. It's like, what, bullying grieving dads? Fuck off.
No, the Disney's getting what is reaping what they've sowed.
But the point of all this, from our own selfish perspective, it's the disaster that now Doctor Who's walking into.
Exactly.
I mean, I can't see it looks any less of a disaster now than it did 2 weeks ago.
It's not good.
And this is going to be the most like LG. You're saying and sadly there is in America a backlash to LGBT entertainment. This series is going fucking overdrive with all that
it's
stuff.
As simple as this. An LGBT version of Doctor Who could succeed on BBC, within the BBC's term of reference perhaps, but it cannot succeed on Disney Plus.
No.
Can't. The audience isn't there to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, there's only 100,000 of them left at the end of the last series, so... You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's assuming that Disney could get people to give the show a chance, right? Assume that.
Exactly.
Right? But Disney can't sustain its own LGBT-friendly shows.
No, because they're dying.
How is Disney Plus as a platform going to sustain somebody else's? Are people going to tune in to watch an LGBT version of Doctor Who on Disney Plus? It seems unlikely. I mean, Doctor Who would have been better off with Netflix, but I have a feeling that Russell T Davies has burnt his bridges with Netflix.
Yes.
He's rather nasty about them.
Was he? What was it he said?
Oh, yeah. See Russell's comments about streaming services and television. I mean, Netflix definitely took those to heart. You can take that to You can take that as
What an
read.
idiot.
Yeah, so, well, he
Yeah.
has got a big mouth.
That's the problem,
Otherwise, I
yeah.
would have thought the show's best chance might have been HBO. Because at least
Maybe.
HBO is financially in a much more stable position than the rest
Yes.
of them.
Yeah.
You know, and the show wouldn't have had that level of pressure on it. But Disney is just going to be absolutely cutthroat, ruthless. If Disney is still intact as a company by the time this is even supposed to air.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the issue, isn't it? If
So
they, you know,
everything I said 2 weeks ago, it's not only is it, you know, only was I not overstating it. It's actually increasingly day by day looking so much worse.
yes.
And it, you know, it's a shame, but I feel it's
Maybe it's for the best.
we spent that time from 2018 to 20 to after Time as Children aired in 2020. I personally spent that time trying to get people to listen when I was telling them what was wrong with the show. And Bowenjaw even more so. Bowenjaw was at it years before me. So we know what fandom, between us, we know what fandom's like, don't we?
2013.
You know, and they need, sometimes fandom needs to
Oh,
have
yeah.
a slap around the chops and go, Psh, look, pay attention. We need to pay attention to this because there's no point us drifting off in a dream that everything's fine and then watching it turn to ashes.
Yeah.
You know, surely it's better.
They're like
we have a
like Magnus.
realistic picture of the state of the show and what the show needs from us as fans, which, frankly, it is going to be. It's going to need our love if it's going to survive. If even that is going to be enough, because the BBC won't make the show on its own again. No way.
No way. Well,
they haven't got the budget for it either now.
No,
because their belt is going on a starvation diet, and you know, I've got a funny feeling, despite political polls, how they've been over the summer, the more I hear Keir Starmer speak, the more likely it seems to me that there will be a Conservative government next time.
Oh God, don't even go with there.
Won't the BBC have trouble then?
Yes, they will.
So really the Doctor Who's never getting made by the BBC in-house again.
No.
So it needs really some kind of deal if the show's going to survive. But this Disney Plus deal is not it. Nothing would make me happier than to hear it's been scrapped and the show's going to a different streamer. Now, before it's too late.
If anyone will have it. That's
well,
the
Netflix
other thing.
would.
Perhaps.
I mean, of all the people who should have Doctor Who, Doctor Who was on Netflix before. It should be on Netflix now. It found its audience. It found success. And as far as a gay representation goes, it's got its best chance on there too.
I mean, I found it on Netflix.
Well,
so
you know what's
definitely.
Oh, there you go. That's true. Yeah, yeah. So,
but Disney Plus.
But you know what's funny? See, a couple of years
at the wrong time.
Yeah, really at the wrong time.
A couple of years ago, I suggested. It's so funny. This was back in 2018, I believe. Or no, it was 19. And it was on Gallifrey base, and I got absolutely fucking flayed alive for it because I suggested what they needed to do was scrap the current version before it does any more damage, and then wait a couple of years, then sell it to Netflix who could put money into it and like make it a proper version of Doctor Who. And I was told that I was a fucking idiot who couldn't tell the color of his piss in the morning. And it's funny because everything I said happened. Like we let it go on. We had the Timeless Children that killed it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it took the time to break the spell and wake people up to go, bloody hell, what the hell is this? You know, I mean, you have to get to that point. But I mean, regarding Doctor Who and Disney Plus at the moment, I mean, it really doesn't look good.
No.
And I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. You know, I don't know. I mean, we don't know the details of this contract.
This is the thing. We don't know.
The answer is cancel. So cancel Russell T Davis's version. Give it a few years, sell it to Netflix, and make it an alternate sequel to the original.
Well,
with no connection to New Who.
If it flops on Disney Plus, it will have cancelled itself. I mean, the one thing that occurs to me is if Disney Plus could have had Russell T Davies's new version of Doctor Who at the same time Mandalorian season 1 went out, things might have been very different. And in fact, if Russell's Doctor Who was good, Doctor Who might have supplanted Star Wars on Disney.
Yeah, that's possible.
But Disney is now way too damaged. Too many people gave it a chance. Then it fed them Obi-Wan.
Oh God, that was awful.
After feeding them the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh dear.
I haven't seen any of Andor. Some people say it's tolerable. I really don't know.
It's okay.
You know, and then the Acolyte is hanging over the
Created by
heads
former Harvey
like
Weinstein
a Sith
assistant.
executioner.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Harvey Weinstein's assistant. Oh, that's gonna
like men, that show. Oh, and the Ashoka show is also apparently all girl power too. So
yeah, but
Disney has driven people away.
Yeah,
by serving up substandard made by Committee of Idiot products.
But there is rumours that the Acolyte may not actually happen. So that's the new rumour.
The rumour is with the Acolyte, it's been made, and in terms of the principal filming has been done. It's at the moment the post-production is being done, but it's a very strange situation where the production company behind the Acolyte is registered as a UK LLC. And they're completely derelict on their tax returns.
Oh dear!
So the Acolyte's production company, including all of the show's assets, are on the verge of being seized and becoming the property of King Charles.
Oh, excellent! So yeah, it may not happen.
It seems like Disney are doing a sort of smash and grab where they've got what we wanted out of the Acolyte, but rather than spend the money to wind it up, they're just letting the production go bankrupt and be seized by the British Crown. This is what seems to be what's happening. There's a deadline in early July. If they haven't sorted out and stumped up by then, there's no assets to produce for Acolyte season 2 with. The word is it's already going to be put out as a one season and scrapped.
Oh God!
You know, so the Acolyte is looking like it's already done, but then there's no production facilities to produce Ring of Power season 2 either, because what was supposed to be these big new studios are just bulldozed parking lots waiting for some construction to begin. So if you think you're getting Rings of Power in 2024, you might need to think again.
Oh dear Lord!
So there's a lot of Fugazi games go on. Things are not always what they seem. But the one thing you could be sure on is that the Walt Disney Corporation is in desperate trouble and possibly already terminally wounded. Now I'm going to go on mute for a moment here, so excuse me.
No worries. So there you go. So
okay, so
Disney's dead. Well, as I said,
but you see, it was entirely.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. No, remember, it is entirely. All right, thanks. So it's entirely down to their own inept way of doing things. Because, as I said, girl power shows have in the past been successful, and even LGBT shows. I mean, Will and Grace. I mean, I never liked Will and Grace much. But but that's what I'm saying. It's entirely the way they do it. It's entirely the way they do it. They have to stick in this divisive, ego-stroking bullshit whenever they have a gay or a female character on screen. Like, I think probably the best example. Have you guys ever seen? And if not, Google them. It's called Supergirl Super Feminist Supercut. There's 3 of these videos made up of the worst SJW moments from the Supergirl series. And oh my God. They should be taught in creative writing classes how not to write female characters.
My favorite scene from the finale of Supergirl was this big, like, gigantic skeletal creature jumps on the ground in the city, and the female characters are all going to fight it, and it's just like this massive, like, generic, like, ugly looking beast, right? And he gets his claws out, swipes at one of them, and they go, "No touching without consent."
Oh,
That was my
God.
favorite one.
Oh,
That one, God.
that hurt.
Seriously,
Oh,
Supergirl should be taught as an example how not to write women, how not to write gay people, how not to write black people. It's everything that's wrong with modern popular culture is condensed into that show. Seriously.
I am back, gentlemen.
welcome back, John.
Where were we? Supergirl was that?
Oh, God, yeah. Yes. yes.
Yeah, St. John.
Look, 20
If you
minutes,
haven't
we better
seen-
remind ourselves what we're here to do.
Yes,
Because we can't go around in a dream. It's important that we sleep no more.
Oh, there we go. It's in. There it is. It's in. And we're off and running.
So we just got rid of the Zygons. We inverted their invasion, and the invaders turned into the people who lived here all along and stuff, and everyone was happy enough to call it an episode. And here we are next week, and it's Mark Gatiss returning with his pen.
Indeed.
And this is all set in the future, in a space station in the 30th century, orbiting Neptune. And there's a rescue team is sent there because all communication has fallen silent. Now, when the rescuers arrive, they meet the Doctor and Clara, who claim to be assessors. They then meet Gargan Rasmussen, the last survivor of the space lab Leveria, and the creator of large pods called Morpheus. And the idea is that you get into one of these pods and that you they reduce the time that you need to sleep. But and therefore you could be more productive and do more work. And you can imagine future galactic corporations like the sound of that quite a bit. However, there's a little bit of problem in that there's a side effect of this process that causes stuff to leak out your eye, which forms a carnivorous life form that comes to be known as Sandmen. So Chopper, Deep Ando, and 474 are killed trying to escape the space station. Oh, by the way, I should point out that the modern show loves to recycle its firsts. But the first time a trans person appeared in Doctor Who is not the upcoming 60th special, but is in fact Sleep No More.
There you go.
True, the trans person was playing a pug ugly android stupid grunty thing. So not exactly a glamorous role, but nevertheless trans.
It was there.
Right. So then Rasmussen plans to use the rescue ship himself to return to Triton, and there he wants to unleash Morpheus so that some Sandmen can spread. The Doctor's not having that, so he destroys gravity shields, causing the space station to plunge towards Neptune. The Doctor says that, Morpheus and how it spread seems to be very contrived, like a story, and he's not really buying it. The Doctor, Clara, and Nagata escape in the TARDIS, while Rasmussen, revealed finally to be a Sandman himself, orchestrated the events to use footage collated from people's vision to make a video that itself would send the Morpheus signal, and you all just watched it. That's essentially the episode.
Yes.
Who's got something to say about this?
Oh, I think we'll open the mic. Should we open the mic to Golden Age Geek for the first one?
Go on. Yes.
This episode is a very strange one because I mean at the time, specifically with the ending, it's a very confusing one. It's never gone anywhere. But this was originally supposed to be a two-parter, so but here's the thing: it feels as if they filmed the second part, and then when they were piecing the series together, they just scrapped the second part, but then kept all the bits from the first half. So it doesn't really make any sense because it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, I could be totally wrong, and you know, when you all give your thoughts, you may absolutely correct me, but the way that it ends and everything, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And, maybe it does, but when you're watching it for the first time, you feel as if you have to go up on the internet and research what the story was all about.
It's another one of the rare examples of a unreliable narrator in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Because you start off, listening to the explanation of what's going on from Rasmussen, only to find out at the very end that Rasmussen is not Rasmussen. So who were you listening to?
Indeed.
And what was truth and what was lies, and what was just to manipulate you to keep you listening.
Yeah.
So, I like the unreliable narrator myself. I've always enjoyed that kind of story because I like to have my sense of what if played with and poked and pushed around and perhaps even provoked to think of something even more horrible than the original writer could have come up with themselves. I like that kind of stuff. So that kind of works for me. But that's what we're talking about, isn't it? I was confused about what's going on is exactly because the programme's lying to you on purpose for dramatic reasons.
But when the episode ends, I'm not sure what it's trying to tell us because, I've always assumed it as the entire episode was the story. So the Doctor was never really there, Clara was never really there. It was just all part of a fabricated story that he's projecting out.
That's
right?
certainly a valid interpretation. This is the thing with these kind of stories.
Is it purposely?
This is exactly what it's trying to force you to do, is come up with your own explanation. I've never thought of that one. The Doctor and Clara were never there. I've never looked at it that way. So that's fantastic. That's actually a testament to the ambition of the writing, but you've had to come up with that. Bonjour.
So are you saying Golden Age Geek, you don't think the Doctor was there at all? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm very conflicted. I don't know what to think of the ending.
Yeah, I agree. It is. To me, I agree with Golden Age Geek. It feels like it was building up to something that never happened.
Because we noticed that the main I've forgotten his name, but the main guy dies, but then he's not really dead. And then at the end of the episode, he says, "Oh, thank you for watching," and he says something along the lines of, I don't remember verbatim, but he says something like,
"I've got something in my eye," isn't it?
Yeah, and he sort of implies that everything that he showed us never really happened. He was never, involved in all those things that went on with the Doctor. But what I will say about this episode is, I do like Reece Shearsmith in the role of that character because I don't know about any of you, but I'm a very big fan of Inside Number 9, which is a show that he writes, produces, and does all that. And it's actually aired on the BBC, and it is the only good show on the BBC. For years. It's an absolutely phenomenal show, and I don't think that it was a coincidence that he was in this episode because it's series 9.
He gave a great performance as well as a sort of hippie serial killer in a movie. It's on Netflix. I can't remember the title of it, but in a recent movie that he did a cracking performance.
The Widower. It was the Widower.
The Widower. Thank you, Goppy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. That was actually. He was really good in that.
So, I mean, to me, what I like about the ending is that, I agree. It's one of those things where it should have had a part 2.
Yeah.
In fact,
actually,
or at least we should have found out something more about these creatures.
So I've just got a bit.
Yeah.
The way that it ends, basically is saying that they've won. They've beaten the Doctor. They've managed to get out of the space station. And the Doctor doesn't know that he hasn't dealt with the problem. So, if that was set up for a story that would have come up around in part 10, in series 10, that would have been brilliant.
Oh, that'd have been awesome.
That would have been great. Maybe that could have really changed how people see this story. But I do know that in fandom as a whole, it's not well regarded at all.
Nah. I think because it feels like it was a two-parter.
But it's the unreliable narrator. It's exactly the same issue that people have with Love and Monsters.
Yeah, I see that.
No, Love and
Yeah.
Monsters.
You know,
for me.
well, some people like Love and Monsters, some people don't, and it really comes down to do you like an unreliable narrator or not? And I think that Sleep No More is in the same category. You know, it only appeals to a certain percent of Doctor Who fans and doesn't
To be
appeal to
honest,
others.
I just like to say actually, I challenge that a bit in that I don't mind an unreliable narrator. Like, take for instance the 2019 movie Joker. I think that's an absolute classic.
I
But
love that film.
Love and
love that
Monsters is
film.
still shit. Not because it's got an unreliable narrator, but because
It's a very
it's an
unfair
awful,
comparison
awful-
to compare it to Joker. One of
It's a
the-
bit rough.
you know, I mean, one of the
yeah,
greatest films of the last decade. You know,
Love
I
and
mean,
Monsters
it
is
wasn't the greatest
bad
episode of its own season, let
story.
alone its own decade.
It's a mean thing to do about Doctor Who fans and about Ian Levine in particular. It's Phil, and I think it's funny for all RTD's looked on as this woke champion. He always makes horrible jokes about fat people. By the way, from the Absorbaloff to the what were they called, the stupid adipose things to the fat couple
Woke
in
hypocrisy?
Voyage of
I've
the
never
Damned.
heard
He's
of
really
that.
nasty with that.
Yeah. Woke hypocrisy indeed.
Yeah,
We might as well say everything
I'll
woke
just
curse and
say
shit, because
say what I
everything
think.
woke is hypocritical.
Yes.
yes. But
No,
yeah,
go on,
this
mate.
episode, in terms of what I
Go on, Borrow, carry on.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I
carry
think
on.
there's a
carry on.
bit of a second's delay with me because sometimes.
It's
Okay, let me
something's
know
not
'cause
right for
I
you,
think
isn't
to
it?
be
Yeah.
talking over anyone.
Do you want to drop out and drop back in and see if it fixes it?
Yeah, you seem to be a second behind it all the time.
Or I'll
Yeah. I was afraid of that. I hope to go down and stuff.
do a drop
Okay,
in
I'll
and
come
drop
out
out.
then.
See if it
Yeah.
fixes your timing. So where were we? Sleep No More.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've really sort of put our knob on it.
Oh my.
You know, I think the
My knob
elements
on
of the story are good. The Sandmen are certainly creepy enough, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, it also plays into the legend that we all know of the Sandman who comes to put sand in your eye to send you to sleep. So you've got that little thing subconsciously floating around in the back of your mind when they're talking about the Sandmen. So, you know.
I had no idea that was a thing.
You know that was a thing.
No. That's the
when
first
he's-
time I'm hearing that.
Oh no, it comes from America. That they believe they used to tell the kids that if you won't go to sleep, close your eyes, and the Sandman puts sand in your eyes, and that's why you get that yellow thing in the corner of your eye when you wake up in the morning. So that's how they explain it. So there's a Sandman who puts you to sleep.
Yes, it's not merely excretion from your ducts. It's magic dust.
It's magic dust from the Sandman. Hence the song, Mr. Sandman. So.
Well, I mean, I did do some singing a couple of weeks ago. So I mean, I could give Golden Age Geek an education if you like. You know.
Would you like? He's off.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him 2 lips like roses and clover. And tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Sandman, I'm so alone. Don't have no one to call my own. You turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, won't you bring me a dream?
There you go, mate.
I am familiar with the original song even before I saw this episode because I mean, you know, I grew up watching Back to the Future. And
so you just let us sing that song just for fun.
Yeah, I did sing it just for fun, you know, because I could get away with it, so I did.
Oh dear me. Hello, Burren Joy, you're back. Can you hear us? Maybe.
Perhaps not. Oh dear. It's a troublesome night tonight, Dobby.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, mate. We can hear
But
you.
we're not sure the delay's gone away.
Yeah, we're not sure if that delay's still there, mate, to be fair.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, yes.
Oh, fucking connect in my mind.
I think the best thing to do is just when you speak,
I'll just
say
have
a
to
lot
try and soldier
in
on.
one
Can you
go.
hear me though
Just
now?
have a good go in one go.
Wait,
Gets,
it's
you know,
it's the grey bit's not flashing up, so
Oh, it's moving on my screen.
yeah, seems a little bit
What
like we might be
browser
back
are
in
you
sync.
using, Burringel?
Anyway, let's try and focus on what we're saying about the story, and we'll see if we can sort the sync out as we go. Yes, kitchen sink. Through the kitchen sink at this story. I mean, I do think it was a good effort to make a spooky story, and I just think it's the comprehensibility of the plot which undoes it. You know, and it's either you can either make that leap with it and kind of go, yeah, I get what this was about, or you don't, and you're a bit lost with it. It just seems to be like one of those episodes.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those.
But I personally quite enjoy it. I find it one of the more watchable episodes of Series 9. I'd certainly rather rewatch this than either of these Zygon episodes.
Oh well, yeah, that's yeah.
So you know, despite what fandom and the AI score said, I think this was actually a bit of a step up.
Yeah,
You know, for me as a fan anyway, I enjoyed this one more when it went out.
Yeah, the AI score wasn't very good for this one, was it? It was only a 78.
Only a 78, yeah, it dropped from 84 the week before.
Yeah, big drop. Yeah.
So it obviously didn't land that well with the normies.
No,
Damn you, Gratis! Stop trying to be so clever. Just give us Ice Warriors stomping around, which of course is exactly what we then did the next year.
Well, yes, exactly. Oh dear me. So, Burringel, have you got any input on Sleep No More?
I'll give it a score as well. Let's do the score.
Well, to be honest, there's not really much to. Yeah, I'll give the score at the end of this, and you guys can. I'm just saying, there's not really much to say about this. I agree. I'm a big fan of Reece Shearsmith too. I've been a big fan of him actually since I was a kid. Did anyone here watch the League of Gentlemen that he was in? That was absolutely hilarious.
Yes,
This is a local.
This is a local live stream. The local room fans. Yes.
Excellent.
Hello, Bev.
Or Papa Lazarus. That was absolutely. You're my wife now. I mean, so yeah, but it was a bit of a disappointing role for him, to be honest. I mean, he should have been cast as a major villain, not just a kind of side character who becomes a villain. You know, it felt like a bit of a weak role for him. To us, I felt the premise of, you know, eye bogies coming to life was a bit too silly. But, you know, yeah, it wasn't the worst episode. I think it's ridiculous the way it's hated on so much because it's got some decent elements. It's well shot. It's got a bit of an atmosphere. And also, I think this is one of the few ones where kind of like the one with those monsters that come through the sort of dimension, the flat people. What's that one called again? From Series 8.
Flatline from Series 8.
Yeah, Flatline.
Flatline. Yeah, it's a bit like Flatline in that it's, you know, Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman are quite good in it. They're more of a proper doctor companion team. There's no stupid, like, you know, like she has to slap him or he's jealous of Danny or whatever.
Yeah,
so yeah,
exactly.
it's not the worst one, but it's fairly average.
Adventure, yeah, it's very true. It's very true.
I mean, like one of my friends who absolutely despises Clara because he thought she was so smug and annoying. Even he said when we were watching, she wasn't that bad in that one. So, you know, there's that at least.
So what score would you go for?
I'd probably give it a C-, to be honest. As average as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good comment from Eastlyn who says, my problem with this episode is that the machine that can help you sleep in this many minutes only, I have seen done better many times. A Twilight Zone episode, factory worker escaping into a dream. I think we've all got to agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and there's a lot of sci-fi franchises where the idea of sleep machines is completely normal, like Judge Dredd, for example.
Yeah,
you know, they could stay on duty judging crimes in Mega City 1, they can just catch 15 minutes of a sleep machine and they're good to go.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, this concept is in no way new. Perhaps that's why it wasn't better explored. Because given the runtime of the episode, focusing on the monsters was better than focusing on the plot device that creates the monsters. You know, but I think you're right. It wasn't in no way exceptional on the science fiction front. But then neither was Shrinking Peter Capaldi to like really little to inject into the Dalek. You know, I mean, it's science fiction. So there's so many good ideas.
Yes, indeed. So, Golden Age Geek, what's your score?
C minus, maybe D plus. I'm just not too fond of this one. I think there are.
Well, if it's a C minus or a C plus, that sounds like a C to me.
No, it's still a D plus.
Yeah.
Oh, D. Oh, sorry. I'll just be here out.
I am a huge fan of unreliable narrator stories. Like Taxi Driver is my favorite film of all time, and I love it. And talking of Joker is a complete rip-off, and Joker's a complete rip-off of Taxi Driver. And
it's a fair comment.
Yeah, and I mean, the director even said, you know, this was heavy inspiration for Joker.
Yeah, you mean you ripped it off?
Well, look, it ripped itself off so much. It had Robert De Niro in both films.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I don't think Robert De Niro didn't know he was ripping off his own breakthrough role.
So I've seen
the irony of doing so is probably why he agreed to do it.
Possibly.
So I've seen unreliable narrator stories
and
done much better than what I think it was in this episode. But you know, as I say, it feels as if certain people, you know, like this one. Maybe it's, you know, just different taste. You know, I don't think it's objectively bad. You know, it just doesn't resonate well with me.
Agreed.
It's just, I don't think, you know, as I've mentioned many times before, that, you know, one of the key parts about making a good story is allowing the audience to go away and think about things. So I'm not against that part of it. I just don't think that there was enough information provided to where I can actually go off and think, because none of it makes any sense to me.
Well, I mean, to have a think about things, you have to consider it worth thinking about, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, I mean, there are some poor, benighted souls out there who've tried to genuinely make sense of the Timeless Children.
Why?
That's why. A way of dealing with the trauma, I suppose.
That's one way of dealing with it, I suppose. But
dear. But look, still, I do have a fondness for this episode. I just do, and you know, I can acknowledge that. You know, so. I kind of want to be really a bit kind to this episode, but I have to accept it does have weaknesses. So I'm not going to get away with something like a B plus for it. But I reckon I could wangle a B minus.
Oh, well, fair enough. Personally, a C minus. I think that's about as best I could give it.
I had a bit of a fondness for this one. It gives it a +1. If I was being truly objective, I'm sure I would be on the C or D level with it too. But I just it just hits a spot with me for some reason. I like it. So
I was just waiting for part 2. That was the problem. And he never came. So
if I see Mark Gatiss, I'll poke him and find out what's going on.
Yeah, I need a second part.
Mark,
go on then.
Mark Gatiss said, actually, that's what I was trying to say earlier before my stupid thing timed out. Mark Gatiss did say that he wanted to do a part 2 in Series 10, but he said he wanted to make it a prequel. He said he wanted to set it in modern day and have the technology create the same monsters that would take over London, and that it would be like a modern day version of the Web of Fear. But Stephen Moffat said no after this one, and so he instead just threw something together with Ice Warriors, which actually ended up being one of his better scripts. So it wouldn't have followed on even if you got part 2. It would have been a weird prequel type thing. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Well, I can assure everybody, if I do get that chance to talk to Mark Gatiss, I definitely will bring this up. You know, and I will try to get answers, because, you know, which way would he rather have it? If he won't face the lion, perhaps he'll have to face the raven.
Oh God, really? That's a good one. Yes, face the Raven. I like this episode for one reason and one reason only, and that's
Cara
because
dies. Was that
Cara
it?
died. Yes, just a bit. Just a bit. Yes, she's dead.
I thought you were going to say because she pushes her tits out a lot in the last scene. Remember?
Yeah, there was, but she still died.
A lot of people were commenting.
I mean, that is one of the other things, but she died, and we finally got rid of her. So,
well, not really. She appears in the next 2 episodes.
oh, well, okay.
We are
well,
on at the beginning of a journey of these next 3 episodes. Right, are all
Yes.
connected. Obviously, we know that.
Mm.
And oh my god, it's what about an up and down roller coaster ride? So we start here,
Yes.
and the Doctor. It was funny actually because we were just talking about Flatline, and the story
Yes.
starts with the Doctor and Clara getting a phone call from none other than Rigsy,
Mm-hmm.
who informs them that strange numbers have appeared on the back of his neck. And they're counting down, and he doesn't got any idea what's going on, but it's the sort of weirdness that he knows is sort of Doctor level weirdness. So he's ringing the number that they gave him, going, help!
That's
So
good.
they travel to Rigsby, his location, and check him out, and then retrace his moments to a street which is being hidden behind perception filters or holograms or something. I can't remember exactly what, but it's like a refugee area for extraterrestrial refugees who found themselves stranded on Earth for one reason or another.
Yeah. Indeed.
They then find out that this refuge for extraterrestrials is being run by none other than me.
Yes, me.
Not me. I mean me.
You know, me.
Yes,
Yeah.
from the girl who lived to the girl who died. Me.
Me.
And but she is in fact the mayor. But Rigsy is to be sentenced to death, and because apparently he killed an alien called Anna, and that's why he's got the tattoo, which is known as a chronolock, on the back of his neck, and that when it reaches 0, an alien raven will basically just like stop his heart and kill him.
Yep.
Now Clara then thinks that she could be very, very clever, because she reasons out that the chronolock could transfer to somebody who's willing to accept it. So she takes the chronolock off Rigsy and it goes on to her, because she reckons that me likes her, so we'll let her off, therefore buying her more time.
Mm.
Now the Doctor, meanwhile, is looking at the medical data in the stasis pod that Anna's body is apparently stored in, to discover that she's still alive. Me made a deal with an unknown party to have the Doctor transported far away to keep everybody safe, because the Doctor's really mean to alien refugees. He tries to deport them. Don't I always say, Gobby, that Doctor Who is the ultimate border guard?
Absolutely, 100%.
Don't we have a script here recognising that right in the face, right?
Right
But
in
me wants to get rid of the Doctor forever because he's mean to alien raiders and refugees in general.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
There you go. So I mean, no one can ever refute that, because
No.
it's true. One of the reasons the Doctor appeals to right-wing people is that he is the ultimate border guard.
He is
Planet
indeed.
Earth is defended. Gosh, bit of a right-wing message. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Possibly.
well, a left-wing one would be, Planet Earth welcomes careful looters.
Yes, indeed.
At least the modern version of the left.
Yes, for mostly
Oh dear! Right, back to the plot. Sorry, distracted myself.
That's all right.
So where were we? Clara's Clara's bought more time by being stupid and taking the chronolock onto her because she thinks that Mercy will have something to do with it. and the Doctor realizes it's all a blag. But the whole idea was to have the Doctor transported far away, which happens after realizing that the owner locks on Clara and realizing that he certainly can't get rid of it. Me can't get rid of it. Nothing could be done to save Clara. Clara begs the Doctor not to take revenge, and the Raven kills her. And then the Doctor is forcibly teleported away.
Indeed.
Clara dead.
Ish. Kind of, maybe.
It'll do for now.
It do for now. It do for now. just for that week or so.
Fans could be left their illusions for at least one episode.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Oh boy, who's starting on this? Gobby, why don't you start on it?
Oh, well, as I said, great episode, as you're correctly right. You know, it is like he is the Doctor is the ultimate border guard. Interesting chap. Obviously, I can't remember. Do we actually find out who gave him? I don't think we did find out who gave
yes,
him.
Yes, we do.
Where
he sent.
I can't remember.
Where he sent gives it away.
Yes, but not in the episode. I don't think we know.
Not in the episode. We
don't, do we? So we have this, unknown threat to the Doctor, and we're not sure what's going on. Clara, why would she make such a stupid gamble, considering she was supposed to be, the Doctor's savior? I don't get that either. Why she think that me would save her? It was strange. I mean, don't get me wrong. I quite like the episode, not just because Clara kind of dies or does die. I enjoyed the principle of it, but it was a good setup. Shall we say it set the next one up well? That would make sense.
It did do. Yes, it definitely did
set the next one up very, very well. I thought the Raven was an interesting thing to use because obviously, everybody knows the association with ravens and death, which I thought was pretty good. But yeah, once the next episode dropped, I kind of liked this one more because then it made even more sense. So it was one of those. So at the time, I kind of enjoyed it. Then when the next episode came and I went back to watch it, I thought, okay, I get it now. It's a little bit more enjoyable. So it'll be interesting to see how the scores go. But that's how I saw this episode. And of course, as Burrinjaw did point out, she did push her chest out quite considerably in that one.
Sorry about that. I was just
no. She just put that image in my head, and now that's all I can see.
I was a bit cross on you. I was trying to be affable as Larry.
No,
David.
It's fine. No, but that's it's one of those episodes that have got better the more I've watched it back, and therefore it must be a fairly good episode because I have actually watched it back. So there you go. In my eyes, it was okay. It was a brilliant setup for the next episode, as it turned out. So, Matthew Painter said her demise needed to be more painful. Well, there you go.
Well, I'm going to take actually the opposite of him. Not you, Gobby, Matthew Pounder. Hi, by the way. And say that I actually think that was the one flaw with it was that they made Clara's death a bit too painful and prolonged. Because when they do that, because Doctor is a family show, then they're going to have to kind of undo it because that would be too upsetting for the little kids. It's like they made the same mistake with Perry. Like you can have Adric's fine, Adric just gets blown up. But Perry, no one cares about Adric anyway. But with Perry, they had her get violated, practically tortured. It was too horrible. You couldn't have left that as the end.
But they did leave it as the end, and then if you didn't happen to tune in for a 30-second flashback at the end of the next part 6 weeks later, you had no idea. So a lot of people went away from watching Mindwarp thinking that is literally what happened to Perry. So any attempt to soften the blow for the kiddie widdies, no, it didn't happen. We had 6 weeks of full-on trauma before they were even given a little snippet of hope. And Nick and Brian didn't even know about it. I mean, that wasn't a scene that was filmed to represent a tender Perry Ucarnus moment. It was just an off-cut with Bundine at the last minute. That's how much thought went into actually saving a life. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
it's
sorry.
amusing, but it doesn't fit per se.
Sorry, I just the Time Prophet there said that Colin Baker threw someone in an acid bath, and I completely agree with that. But there's a difference between the Doctor killing bad guys. I'm all for the Doctor killing bad guys, by the way. I like a Doctor that kills bad guys. But when it's a companion that we kids have bonded to, fallen in love with, like there's probably a lot of people, Clara would be like their first crush. Then
Now
you
I've
know,
got Clara and acid bath together.
oh, that's horrible. But I agree. Have Doctor Who darker and scarier, but I just think there's maybe certain lines to cross. But I mean, anyway, apart from that, I actually thought this was a brilliant episode. I really, really liked the premise. The premise, I think, actually gets back to the roots of Doctor Who, and it's very C.S. Lewis. It's like there's this sort of, seemingly ordinary place that like leads into this weird world of monsters and aliens. I really, really liked that premise. I mean, that's what the TARDIS itself was. Remember, it was back then. Police boxes were common, and it led, and so it was like seeing something every day.
That's all true. That's all true. There's a cynic in me. It's struggling to get out. You've got something to say. Hang on, what is it? Harry Potter, the Diagon Alley. Sorry, did you catch that? Yeah. Seems to be a similar thing.
To be fair, I don't really know anything about Harry Potter, so fair enough, I suppose.
Harry, it's a secret alley that only special magical people can enter. Right? And in it, there's all weird and wonderful creatures. Of course, they're magical creatures, not alien creatures, but it's exactly the same thing.
To be fair, I think the fact that they made it alien creatures, that gave a slightly new twist. It wasn't just the same idea.
Yeah, I mean, if Doctor Who do magical creatures, we would have questions.
Yeah. And not just that, like, to be fair, they were both probably just taking their cues from C.S. Lewis, because I know J.K. Rowling, a.k.a. the Unspeakable One, has always cited C.S. Lewis.
John Mansfield, the Box of Delights. John Mansfield.
What's that?
The Box of Delights. Talking about cues, where, where these stories have drawn their cues from. Mansfield, Box of Delights, absolutely.
I don't think I've read that. I mean, I'm a big Narnia fan, Roy, but I don't think I've.
Well, yeah, there you go. Go check it out. Box of Delights.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Patrick Troughton played the part of the lead tramp who has the box in the kids' adaptation in the 80s. You should check it out. Recommended, in fact.
And a fairy tale thing, count me in, definitely. Yeah.
Infinitely better than this episode. I mean, I think my problems with it is that it's too functional for me. When I look back at the episode, the only thing I'm left with it is that its purpose was to get to the next episode.
I bet.
The rest of it doesn't really sink in that much. And Clara's death left me completely unmoved at the time. And I didn't believe it. I didn't believe in it. And I thought that the show trying to make me believe in it was jerking my chain. And this was before the other episodes of Series 9 aired. That was my reaction on the night. And look, I was right. If I'd emotionally bought into that scene, I think I would have felt very cheated by what happened 2 weeks later. You know?
Sorry, just one thing. You know who actually did complain about that? This is so random. Aid Edmondson, who I'm sure most of you have heard of. Aid Edmondson, the young ones, bottom.
What was Vivian bothered by?
Well, on Twitter, it's the only time I've seen him mention Doctor Who, but he just tweeted, "Oh God, she's back for the next episode." He said, "I thought we fucking got rid of her like the previous."
Well, there we go. We were all sympathising with Aid Edmondson there.
He obviously does watch Doctor Who, because remember the last Bottom live tour is a parody of Doctor Who. They travel in the TARDIS, so obviously he's never felt fit to really mention that, except he was just so pissed off that Clara was back. He was like, "Oh."
Well, I mean, being as this is the episode Clara dies in, maybe we should have a talk about this now. Because I often say that Clara did one season too many. I just feel that 3 with that character was one too many for
Mhm.
certain, you know. And I feel her story should have wrapped up with Danny Pink, you know.
Yeah.
But they were denied that, and let's have another go. But now we're at a point where we're all going, oh, thank God she's dead, you know, because this series 9, Clara obviously wasn't working. I mean, could we put some analysis to that? What
Yeah,
was
sure.
it about Clara this year that really made us feel happy? But was she finally sorted off?
Well, for shall I go first, or does anyone else want to
Yeah,
go?
fine.
go
No,
for it.
carry on. Carry on.
Okay. Well, as I've said before, I'm not that keen on Clara. I do like Jenna Coleman as an actress.
We all like
And
Jenny Coleman as an actress.
she's reasonably likable and fun, and she reminds me a bit of Claudia Berlin, so I guess I like her even more for that. But
Oh, Claudia.
I've never been on board with the character because I feel she was A, more of a plot device, and B, I feel it was the beginning of they can't have the Doctor be the main focus, so they had to have Clara do everything. And then once that didn't really work, I feel they just tended to kind of, it's hard to describe. I think Stephen Moffat tended to write her as more of his fantasy character. She was like, his idea of like a perfect kind of sexy companion, and it got really, tedious.
The rest of this are in Flatline, aren't they? Because I mean, that's the story where Clara got to be the Doctor.
Yeah,
And,
well, I
and
think
at,
it was
the point,
first, to
at
be
that
honest.
point in time, it was sort of the Doctor was observing. Yes, Clara, you made a very good Doctor. That's terrifying, you know. And then that seemed to become the theme for her character for Series 9. You know,
Yeah.
let's make her the Doctor, and then make her fuck it up, and make there be
Mm.
consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit, but I mean, to be honest, I just think, and also, as per usual, I think Stephen Moffat never maps out his story arcs because the reason Clara was brought together was fucking stupid. First, Missy said it was because she was a nag, and he's, what is it like, opinionated, so they'll drive each other crazy. That's literally what she says in Death in Heaven. But then apparently it's because she felt he'd fall in love with her so much that he would destroy the universe to save her. I mean, it's all over the place. It's stupid. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I grant Clara, as I've said before, she should have left at the end of Series 8, and they shouldn't have done Death in Heaven. They should have made Missy the Clara Splinter that was on Gallifrey rather than.
I mean, it would have been merciful, wouldn't it? So poor Capaldi didn't have to spend his life going, Clara, 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 Clara.
Clara.
I mean, it even becomes a meme inside the program in its own series, which Clara, 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 Clara. Yes, he says it like multiple times like that.
Also, she was a terrible. Can I just say as well?
It's crazy, isn't it?
She was a terrible, terrible fit for him because I've heard that she was basically cast for Matt Smith. They had great chemistry. She was kind of like a female version of him, and they thought Matt was going to do a 4th series, so that was been like a full. But Matt left after obviously only half a series with her, so really he was saddled with what was Matt Smith's companion for 2 series. It was terrible. It was really, really badly done. Like he should have had a companion that was better suited for him because Clara, I said, she's too young to be his friend. They can't do the romance because it's creepy, and they can't do the father-daughter mentor thing because Matt Smith shagger.
As Archer Collins notes, didn't Jenna Coleman keep changing her mind about leaving? But you see, you've got to remember how the production went because Series 8. When Series 9 followed the production cycle normally, but then there was going to be a gap before Series 10 because Moffat was off to Sherlock. So there was going to be no Doctor Who at all other than the one Christmas special in 2016.
Yeah.
So I think Moffat didn't want her to go because then he'd have to cast a new lead and shit. And he didn't really want to have to do that with a short lead up. Just one more series, then he's got a break and he could take his time casting. I mean, I think that was probably what happened, but it was a mistake. But I think it was a mistake to have her in Series 8, let alone Series 9. You know,
I can understand Series 8 because
but I definitely think her story should have ended in Series 8.
Oh, completely. Clara should have absolutely gone at the end of that because, and as I said, Pierre Capaldi. I mean, personally, I think Journey Blue and Osgood, but whatever the case, there should have been like a proper Capaldi
You see,
companion.
the companion is the audience's lens onto the world of the Doctor.
Yeah.
But the companion is also the lens through which the Doctor is seen. So if you have a companion whose run is as long as the Doctor's, for that whole run, you're only getting one perspective on the Doctor.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it shortchanges any actor's running the role. You know,
Yeah,
a Doctor needs to have 2 or 3 different character companions to have the range of dynamics to show what that actor's capable of in the role.
David Tennant was really the best served in that respect.
Well, he was very well served, yes.
Because
But,
well,
you know,
I did like the Pawns. I think maybe they stayed on perhaps a bit too long. Like if he got a full season with Jenna,
think
that
about
might have been better.
think about, you know, I hate to do it to you, but just for a moment, think about Chicken Liver.
Oh God.
And 3 years of Yaz.
Oh God. Yes, Lion. Oh God.
But then think about the Dalek special, where Captain Jack showed up to bust Jodie Whittaker out of prison.
Yeah.
And for those few minutes of that story, there was more chemistry going on than in the previous series. Because Jodie Whittaker was given the right person to play off against for a scene or 2 at least. And it improved her performance no end. I mean, it doesn't speak to her acting. No, she shouldn't have to need that. But, you know, it showed the difference that the right person in the supporting role makes.
Yes, exactly.
So, you know, when fans complain about Clara, it's not that we hate Clara or anything stupid like that. It's just there was too much of her.
Yeah.
We were served up too much Clara. It got a bit sickly. I would rather have had something else.
Indeed.
Which is, you know, how I felt about this episode. Really, it was functional. It did what it needed to do, i.e., it killed Clara off, which was fine by me, and it set up the next story very nicely. So all of that stuff, you know, the functionality of it worked. The memorability of it, not so much.
Mm.
You know, I preferred the story of the week before.
Really?
No.
Yeah, I preferred the story of the week before. I enjoyed it more. I felt bored for the last 15 minutes of this.
Really, I actually thought this. I thought Peter Capaldi, if I'm being honest, gave.
Yeah, well, Capaldi's great. My interest always goes back when Capaldi's on the screen.
No, but I think he gave his. Well, I think his performance in this one where he threatens me at the end. That's so much better than when he does all the macho shit with Daleks and the Witch's Familiar, or when he's begging Davros and he goes too over the top and he's like, please, I'll do anything. Like at the end of this, where he's like kind of casually threatens her, I think that's so much better. That's genuinely like.
I also feel the same about Maisie in this episode as I did in the previous 2. I don't think she doesn't really feel like she's doing the best at it.
No,
you know, she doesn't sell me that she's this character. No, she doesn't.
No. So, Golden Age Geek, what did you think of this episode? Sorry, I just was wondering. Like,
I'm actually pretty fond of this episode. I do like the setting. It's already been said, but the idea of you're surrounded by the modern world, everything is how we see it every day, but then you have, you know, just a little entrance into something that is familiar, but is a mixture of different time periods, and you know. I'm very fond of the more historical episodes and what they do with the set production and stuff like that. So that always intrigues me. So I like that part of it. I do like the idea of Clara's arc that she goes through, that a companion becomes so obsessed with the role of the Doctor that they try and become the Doctor themselves, only to find out that it isn't all, you know, ending in happiness and saving people, but it results in death. That's something that's been seen before. I mean, was it Tegan in when she left? It was just very sudden and abrupt because she couldn't handle all of the just destruction around her. So it's kind of like that in a way.
She had to be fair, she'd had a rough morning.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And to just to continue what we're talking about with Clara overstaying her welcome, one thing that does linger too long is when the Raven goes through her, you see her scream out in pain, but then they show the exact same 5 seconds about 20 different times from different angles. So one is overhead, one's in front, one's from the side, one's from down below, one's to the corner. That's so unnecessary. It becomes laughable. I mean,
It's like seen America
Yeah,
when they blow up Alec Baldwin's head and they show everyone all the different angles.
Well, it's just like those. If you watch American football, it's like when you ever have a bad tackle, they have to show it from 62 different angles.
They're trying to stretch the moment so it has extra chance to sink in. And the audience doesn't blink and miss it, and then not realise why people are crying. But I'm just here. I've got a question. I've got a thought exercise here. I mean, we often talk about episodes that we'd recommend people watch about Doctor Who.
We do indeed.
Heaven Sent appears on that list of things we'd show people quite a lot. And it occurs to me, do you even need this episode for Heaven Sent to make sense? I mean, yeah, okay, you've got to kill. You need it to kill Clara properly, but you can watch Heaven Sent, and you've got everything you need. You don't need this episode at all. You could just watch the last 2 as a 2-parter, and you're no worse off. You don't have to sit through this.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
I don't think so, to be honest. I think Heaven Sent.
Well, you start Heaven Sent. It's a mystery. No one knows what's going on. The Doctor turns up. No one knows nothing. But you learn everything you need to know.
But why he's going through so much torture?
So all about the grieving process.
It's not just that his companion's dead, but she's killed for such a stupid.
Yeah, but you can still start from the same point. It's just in media res.
No, I think you need this. I don't think Heaven Sent works as a one-off. I think it's actually another thing I want to say.
The thing is, it does.
Well, no,
because so many people have seen Heaven Sent and have never seen Face for Raven, but really thought Heaven Sent was really good. Isn't that true? We've been recommending it to people for years to watch.
I
mean, they might go back and watch Face the Raven afterwards, but if you say watch this episode, you watch this episode. It just occurs to me. But I mean, yes, I'm kind of making it is a thought exercise. It's a ridiculous point. Yes, you need Face for Raven to have the stuff, to have the content for Heaven Sent. But it's just that you can do the story without it.
No, because that's what I'm saying. It's not just the content. It's, I mean, again, Sadako, what Sadako's also saying here agrees with me. Just that, like, as I said, it's that he's going to go through that because it's not even that Clara died, like, saving the Earth. She died for a stupid reason. So he really wants to, that motivates him to try and just do anything he can to fix it. So, I mean, again, it's all just opinion, but I think that you lose a chunk of what makes
there was no need to make Clara make a stupid fatal decision. There was no need for that.
Well, I don't think it was stupid because she thought she was saving that guy's life. Like, so...
No, but we consider it stupid because she thought that me would show her mercy and get her more time, and she just assumed the rules wouldn't apply to her.
Well, I mean, the thing was stupid. That might have happened. It was just that they underestimated how the process worked.
It's like, I see you've got a ticking bomb strapped to your chest that will explode when the timer reaches 0. Here, how about you unstrap it and strap it onto me? Yay, I'm the Doctor.
Well, I mean, if you want to, I think maybe part of it was also because that guy had a family.
This is not the same thing, isn't it? You die when the timer goes out.
No,
it's a device on your chest, not a number on your neck.
She was just willing to sacrifice. I mean, I think it wasn't so much that, it was that she was willing to sacrifice herself.
But she wasn't. She wasn't because she never believed that she would die.
Well, she must have thought it was a possibility.
She didn't believe she was risking anything, or she wouldn't have done it. If she really thought she was going to die, she wouldn't have done it.
No, I think that she did it thinking there could be a way out, but knowing there was a risk she could die. But she felt this guy had a wife and family and a life here where she didn't, because she'd become like the Doctor, because she'd become quite cold and detached from the Earth after the death of Danny Pink. And so that's why I think she was more willing to take a risk. And the tragedy was that it wasn't even that she took a risk and it came back. It was that she didn't have to take a risk because me was lying to them, and it wasn't anything to do with her. So that's how I see Clara's death, which again, it isn't the worst way to write her out. It still has her trying to do a noble thing.
Yeah,
but
but
there's
I mean,
that
the thing is, when you write a death like that, when you know that it's the character's mistake, let's put it that way, has led to that death, then you either deal with it as a tragedy, this character died making a mistake, or you push a button and retcon it and pretend it never happened. Moffat chooses the latter, and that makes the whole thing a cheat.
He shouldn't have done that, I agree, but we'll talk about that when we get to Hellbent.
We'll get to it. But
yeah,
I can't separate the two out because I knew it was Moffat's writing. I knew there was 2 episodes left in the season. I think I'd even seen some promotional stuff about talking about something Jenna talking about scenes that clearly hadn't been aired.
I know.
So I mean, because the information was a bit leaky at that point, to say the least. So I mean, it was undermined by gossip as well. I just knew that it wasn't narratively real.
No, I understand that. That's a completely fair point. And I will say, actually, one thing I want to say about this story is I think this 3-parter, because it's basically a 3-parter of Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, and Hellbent, is comparable to the Series 3 3-part finale in that the first 2 parts of the Series 3 finale are amazing. Utopia is among the best stuff Russell T Davies has ever written. It's a classic. And similarly with this 2-parter, the second part is among the best stuff that Stephen Moffat has ever written. But in both cases, the third part is so spectacularly shit. It sadly weighs the whole thing down. It's quite. Both are probably the shining examples of it fell apart in the third act because, oh my God, I mean, the Jesus Doctor, he never walketh upon the earth from the season 3 finale. It's a train wreck, but I actually think Hellbent might surpass it, but we'll get to that.
The thing is, they didn't follow the formula, because the formula for 6-parters from Classic Who is that it's either a 2-parter with a 4-parter stuck on the end or a 4-parter with a 2-parter stuck on the end. So when you take a 3-parter and you try and make 3 separate different episodes that connect, it's a lot harder than 2 episodes that connect with a satellite episode.
Even Buffy and Angel and Xena that had the 45-minute formula, they never tried to do a 3-parter because it's a very difficult thing to do with the 45-minute formula. So I agree with that. I think they were stupid in how they approached it.
Well, almost all Classic Who 6-parters are either a 2 followed by a 4 or a 4 followed by a 2, without exception, the whole lot. Because that's what works. Because you need to be if you're going to take 3 parts, if you're going to take that amount of time to tell a story, you need to be able to take the audience somewhere else before you take them to the end. So I mean that's why it worked. Okay, well. Golden Age Geek, what else have you got to say about this one?
That's about it, really.
You're all good.
I feel like everything I was gonna say has already been said already.
Yeah, we've covered it. Well, should we do some scores, George Dawes?
Yes.
Now I'm going to start off. I think you can tell that I'm not overly impressed with this one. I'm not going to score it up into the B's. I reckon I'm going to fit it around a C+.
Oh, C+. Me personally will actually give it a B-. I quite enjoy it. B-. How about you, Burrinjaw?
B+, with all its faults.
And you, Golden Age Geek?
A-.
Oh, nice. He liked it. I knew you were going to give something like that. You like that
one? Finally, one of the stories from the second part of season 9 gets an A. And when it comes to reviewing, clearly Golden Age Geek is Heaven Sent.
Oh, God. Oh, dear, that's sublime. Oh, dear, I like that. Oh, dear me.
Do I need to tell you the story of Heaven Sent?
Oh, go on, give it.
People tune in for it, John.
They do, don't they? They do. I must admit, I've been cribbing it a bit this week. I haven't been quite so off-piste as I was a couple of weeks ago. Well, look, the opening scene of this is a classic. The Doctor arrives in the teleporter in the castle, opens the door, tries to work out what the heck's going on, and there are various clues, including a crispy corpse that we see just before he shows up, would suggest things aren't exactly swell here.
No.
The Doctor starts to explore this place. Swiftly realizes that it's pretty inescapable because there's nowhere even to escape to, and that it's clearly some kind of prison.
Yeah.
And that the entire structure acts as a labyrinth and rotates on a regular basis. And most importantly of all, that there's a creature and it's hunting him.
Mm.
So we follow the Doctor on this day through the castle.
Yeah.
And he discovers various things. He discovers a clean set of clothes drying in front of a fire. He discovers an oil painting of Clara that seems to be hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
He discovers that the entire castle is a lake surrounded by skulls, and but according to the stars, quite a bit of time has passed.
Yes.
And he's not happy about this situation.
Nope.
He's extremely steamed about what happened to Clara.
Indeed.
He wants to do something. Not sure if it's revenge or justice, but he's keen to do it either way. But he needs to find his way out of his castle.
He does.
And as part of his explorations of the day, he discovers an area of the ground, and there's a grave, and he's digging in it, but then the creature nearly catches him. And in the end, he realizes that there's really only one thing he can do, because there's only one way to get out of here which is in any way real. And that is to hit this wall of crystal and then use the energy of his own body to recreate a new copy of himself, to live the whole day again and do it all again. And the Doctor believes he will do it all again because he knows he is the Doctor, and he knows himself, and he knows that he will. And so the Doctor sets out to live this same day again and again and again and again until billions of years have passed. And finally, that one last time, he punches that wall of crystal and it shatters, and he walks through the portal beyond, and he is standing on the surface of Gallifrey. And in his hand is the confession dial, now revealed to be the labyrinth castle nestled within its disc. As it closes over, a young shepherd boy of some kind appears, and the Doctor tells him to go to the capital, tell them that he's arrived. End of episode.
Can I just say a quick welcome to ex-British Army Paz 49? Thanks for joining us, sir.
Oh, welcome indeed.
Yes, excellent welcome. And yes, I love Tom Baker as well.
Tom Baker's a god among men.
Oh,
He's a god.
We spent 5 hours talking about Tom Baker. Yeah, you can find it all on Gobby's channel. Go back to, you'll love our Tom Baker stream. You had great fun doing those.
Part 4.1 and 4.2, if I do remember correctly.
Yes, it was.
That was an epic session, that was. It really was.
Well, it was a lot easier than talking about Series 9.
I can imagine.
Yes.
All right, guys, who's kicking off with their response to Heaven Sent?
I think we should let Golden Age Geek go first.
Yep.
Well, first of all, if you proposed this episode to someone and you said, right, we're going to have a single character going around a silent, mundane setting, they'd probably say that's not going to work. That would turn audiences off. But like with David Tennant, Peter Capaldi could literally just talk to the camera about nothing for an hour and you'd probably still be invested. you'd probably
course.
still want to know what he's got to say. And
Yeah.
no, it just works. And you know how this is kind of like a prison in his mind sort of thing, going through the various stages of grief and how he's had to just live it out in isolation for so long, because even though people who do go through grief may be surrounded by people physically, they aren't all there. So, they're yearning for someone. They don't feel any connection with someone, although there are people there. So I think all of this was just a perfect metaphor for all of that. And again, there is a mystery there, which, Doctor Who, does well when there's a mystery, allows the audience to jump in and try and figure things out for themselves. And it's just nothing I can really pinpoint, because it's all just from start to finish, just absolutely entertaining. And
It is awesome.
yeah,
it is awesome.
As Matthew Panda observes, you can't go wrong with Capaldi carrying an entire story.
And this is perfection. This is such an episode.
I mean, let's get that lot out of the way. Oh, thank goodness I can do some proper acting.
And my God, did he act? Oh, God, did he act in this one? It was brilliant. Oh, it is, as we've said, it's one of them episodes, isn't it?
One of the things that this story does incredibly well is take you inside the mind of the Doctor.
Yes.
And during the sequence where he's falling and he goes to his mind palace, which of course is using the blackboard on the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And just to have that kind of insight to say this is how the Doctor's thinking all the time. Or to try to suggest that's how he's thinking all the time.
Yeah.
And the show hadn't really tried to do something like that for quite some time. I mean, the previous example I could think of is in the 11th Hour.
Yeah.
Where Matt Smith's Doctor is shown to have an extraordinary level of perception in the scene with all the phones. And he's taking in every detail, instantly. And that's showing off that sort of super mind concept, which we did do a bit of that in that story at the start of for which is familiar. But this is taken to be a whole another level.
Oh God, yeah.
So this really is pushing the show's format as far as it will go. And everybody was on point.
Oh God, it was just, it's sublime. It is an absolute brilliant piece of Doctor Who. It's... Whoa.
It's also a real mind stretcher because, on the one hand, the Doctor's trapped in this thing for 4 billion years. On the other hand, the Doctor's trapped in this thing for 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the final version of the Doctor that walks out from the confession dial onto the surface of Gallifrey, that Doctor has only lived the same length of time, one day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, is he traumatized by it or isn't he? And that's not adequately explained.
No, it's not.
In the end.
Not really.
Because I mean, the trauma of that one day, certainly.
Yeah.
But beyond that, but it also means he has no time to process anything. Everything is so raw and immediate because Clara still just died, even though 4 billion years have passed.
Yeah.
So to speak. So yes, exactly. But he doesn't.
No.
He doesn't remember. He doesn't remember any of them. Purely because he never was them.
No.
This isn't them teleported back. This is a whole different recreate. This is a new copy of the same pattern.
So
but
he
it hasn't
killed
had
the
those
Doctor
experiences.
Off. This story kills the Doctor off then, because the first one is the Doctor who dies, and from then on it's just copies. So that means Jodie never was the Doctor then.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I can get on board with that. I can get on board with that idea. I like that.
It's certainly playing, what is the notion of authentic. I mean, when you go through a machine that takes every single one of your atoms turns it into energy, projects it, and then reformats it. Are you the same person? Star Trek never wants to answer that one.
Well,
No,
in Star
it
Trek, I feel it's in Star Trek it is, because even regardless of whether or not what the science would be, it's science fiction. In Star Trek, let's just say it's meant to be you are teleported somewhere else. Whereas in Doctor Who, in this version, he states that he's creating a copy. So that suggests it's not even just a question of him being, sent somewhere. It's like the original's burnt up completely, consciousness and everything gone. And then a new copy is created, in which case, yes, Stephen Moffat killed off the Doctor in this story.
Yeah, but the thing is, Time Prophet brings up a good point here, which is what the Timeless Child did. Because by rights, you should have just regenerated every time.
That's true, actually, because he's not a Time Lord. And
Exactly. This is another example where this is where the Timeless Child had such a massive impact. Is the fact that if we go by the Timeless Child, every time he died in this one, he should have just regenerated over and over and over again. We should have had thousands of different Doctors.
4
But
billion.
even if you forget the Timeless Children, he's just started his new regeneration cycle, so he
Exactly.
should be. Or actually, you could actually look at it from the perspective that the Doctor that we follow for most of the episode isn't actually the first one that arrived, because I mean, there's already millions of skulls
Oh, it
at
isn't.
the end of the ocean.
It isn't. It's just one of them. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
absolutely
So
correct.
perhaps the original.
It's already like 2 million years in or something.
So perhaps the original 13 or so Doctors did regenerate.
Yeah, maybe they did.
Well, they didn't, because I mean, to be fair, he does say that he's been hurt in such a way where he can't regenerate. That that is covered, which to be fair is possible, like. But as you say, with the Timeless Children, then at the very still that buggers it up, because the Time Lords, when they had him in the confession dial, they should have realized that he's not just a regular Time Lord, because they should have, when they were designing it or whatever, they should have realized that what will kill a Time Lord and stop its ability to regenerate might not work with him, because I don't know what the fuck he's meant to be now. Like,
who knows? I mean, Time Prophet just put, who moved all the skulls then?
Well, they're not just dropped into a lake.
I don't know.
So yeah, that's a bit. Maybe he did for some reason. I don't know. Why would he do that? Was it maybe to stop himself from figuring it out right away, so he'd make his way to the top? I don't know.
Oh, I don't. You know what? The more if you really want to deep dive into this, you can really mess with your own mind.
Well, yes, I'm just going to say, is it okay if I offer my opinions on it?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, overall, this is a good episode. I think I came down a bit too hard on it at first, because by that point I was so bitter at New Who, I wasn't willing to give it, any kind of praise, which was stupid of me. But looking back on it now, yeah, this is a good episode. It's beautifully directed. I mean, it really is. Rachel Talalay, they definitely got their money's worth with her in this episode.
Yeah,
and I love, just the idea of being trapped in this castle with that, horrible monster chasing you. That alone is just such a simple but brilliant concept. And also the backstory to the Veil, that's something that's really sinister. Apparently it was an old woman that had died, whose corpse was just left to rot out in the sun, and the Doctor was the only one that cared about it, because everyone else had just left her there. And that trauma stuck with him, and that's what the monsters created in the image of. So that's a really frightening idea.
Mm-hmm.
And although I've seen some fan fiction which suggests that the old woman was actually the Doctor's mother, which I'm so glad they didn't put that in, because that would be, I think that'd be too nightmarish a concept.
Yeah, that'd be way too nightmarish. Yeah.
Now we need to answer this question about the skulls. Matthew Pounder, how did they fall in the lake? Look, every time the Doctor's body was roasted up to power the teleport, his bones fell on the floor and the skull rolled out the window.
There you go.
And then they slowly filled up the entire surroundings of the castle with skulls.
Yeah, possibly. It's a bit of a plot hole, but I will say it's one of these things that I think logic was secondary to how cool an image it looked, because it was a really. And I'll forgive Stephen Moffat with that. I mean, to be honest, in places, this one.
Well, look, hang on a minute. What? We know quite a bit about this kind of thing, when the Time Lords do it. You know, because we know about the Matrix, and this is another Matrix simulation. So, one thing about this whole environment is we've got no reason to assume that the rules of laws of physics are in any way actually real here.
Yeah.
And there could be all sorts of things going on in the background, some algorithm running to keep the thing going like clockwork, even if we could think of all sorts of ways it should be improbable. You know, maybe there's an energy field making sure the skull rolls that way every time. You know, we don't really know the full nature of the place, but it's obviously aware and sentient, you know, because it's sending the monster purposefully to trap the Doctor and so forth. You know, so he's in a panopticon. Everywhere he goes, he's watched. He has no escape. There's no privacy. You know, the program has him. You know, but this is a Matrix reality. So if you want to kind of try to go, well, how much of this story does it make sense with the whole thing's a simulation? So whatever rules need to be bent can be bent to make the Doctor believe what the Doctor needs to believe. You know, because the whole purpose of a confession dial was to put the Time Lords in a situation where they have to confront the things about themselves they don't want to own up to.
Yeah, no,
so that their minds could be downloaded into the Matrix. I mean, that was explained.
Yeah, no, I mean,
a confession dial is.
I agree, but I mean, to us, that plot hole, it's one of these things in this story. I think it demonstrates Stephen Moffat. You know, for all like people kind of give him a hard time, I think he's actually. I think it's a shame that he never became a horror movie writer. As I think he's got where his talent really actually lies is in horror, not in science fiction. I mean, he's not bad at sci-fi.
Well, comedy and horror are actually relatively close to each other because they're both trying to evoke emotion.
Yeah, but I wasn't
hitting
on
different
his
switches.
comedies. But I think as his horror, he's actually one of the best ones. Because I mean, this would make such a brilliant horror movie. By the way, I mean it's got all like the details. But see, when you actually think of the sci-fi of it, it does fall down a bit. I mean, there's a lot of it's very convenient, like the skulls, and also like he mentions the whole place resetting. It conveniently, except for the wall that he has to keep, you know, chipping away at, like. And if it's a simulated environment, why give him a wall that can be chipped? Like, you know, it's not a physical environment. If everything can be simulated within it, why not just simulate?
Well, it's supposed to be utterly impossible, so he doesn't even attempt it, and he gives up and confesses.
But
that's the whole point of it.
But when they realise
the whole point of the Doctor being so bloody minded, but he won't tell them what they want to know. He won't tell them who the hybrid is. So he's going to keep hitting a wall for 4 billion years instead. And meanwhile, the Time was looking at him going, he really is that bloody minded.
But when they realised when it got to 2.5 billion years, okay, this guy will need to try a different approach.
Maybe we should vary our approach, you know. Well,
why not stick him in a Matrix? Where you can
his is 3,999,999,999. You know, maybe this time.
You must realise he won't break under torture. So why not say give him a hallucination of Clara and have him like, you know, trick him with the Clara?
Well, maybe it's because once he was in the dial, they couldn't actually interfere, and it's the Doctor who was keeping it that way.
Maybe. I mean, it's not very well thought out in that respect, but you don't mind that because the horror and I completely agree. This is Peter Capaldi's. This is arguably the performance of his career, you know. So all of that, I think, helps overcome those problems to be the classic that everyone says it is. Really.
And I mean, well, of course, and then in the next episode, Clara says, "Why did you do that to yourself?"
Yeah.
Was that? I mean, he could have told and then been free.
It was the Doctor choosing not to take the way out put in front of him, but to make his own way out. That was a deliberate, purposeful choice because he wouldn't give in. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Golden Age Geek, you got more thoughts on this?
No, I've got a bunch of new pathways created in my head because I've never even considered half of these questions.
It's awesome, isn't it? Does make you think.
Yeah. And with the thing about Stephen Moffat being a horror writer, I mean, for all of its faults, and there were a lot of them, one of the good things that his Dracula show did was the horror aspect of it.
Yeah.
That show has a lot of you know. There was no sort
Well,
of
we spoke
boundary
about that a
there.
little.
Moffat did
Devin
just
Heaven,
threw
didn't
some
we?
things
You
he
know,
wanted.
the roasting bodies.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the
Didn't-
cremation thing.
Yes,
I-
cremation. Yes.
I'll be honest here about Stephen Moffat's Dracula. I really loved the first two parts. I thought that's one of the best versions of Dracula.
Yeah,
And I loved how he wrote the character because he didn't just make him a mopey guy in love with Mina. He made him a terrifying predator. But it all came apart in the third part. That, again, typical, like the third part. I mean, it just wasn't very good. Very sorry, carry on, Golden Age Geek.
Well, no, that's yeah. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I think we've given a fairly good summary of it. I mean, there's so much great stuff in this episode.
Oh,
And
God,
the acting is just, you just don't, you just don't
It's
get
sublime.
Doctor Who
Yeah.
normally.
Yeah.
And yes, you can pick up the plot. And I think that the problem when you try to do something imaginative is that it's easy to use imagination to try to subvert it. I mean, going along with an entertainment to a certain extent requires a certain amount of audience willingness.
Yeah.
But this one evokes that willingness.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, God, 100%.
Because it got the two things that I love most in any story, but which I especially love in a Doctor Who story. It's got vision and it's got ambition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you've got those two things, it's such a powerhouse, rocketing an episode along, everything else falls away.
Yes.
You know, when it's done right with commitment, and this was. So, the best episode of Doctor Who Stephen Moffat ever wrote, the best episode of Doctor Who Rachel Talalay has ever directed, and the best episode of Doctor Who Peter Capaldi has ever acted in.
Yep, can't argue with that. Should we try and give it some scores?
We might. I don't know. We might argue with it, but I think it's going to be a damn hard argument.
Oh, you can't really.
You know, I mean, I think, it's pretty much, that's where we have to look at this story. So it scores, there's no hesitation. It's A++.
For me, it's an A++. This is an absolute classic. How about you, Burunjo?
I agree with you guys. A+.
Yeah, an A+ here as well.
Yeah, this is going to happen. Let's be honest. With
No,
this
then.
particular episode.
It feels
Many
great
times in the
Capaldi
history
one.
of Doctor Who,
Yeah,
we reach moments like this,
yes.
where we have a story which blows everybody away and we all find absolutely fantastic. And then next week happens.
I think that this was the most controversial episode before the Timeless Children came out.
Certainly.
Right, guys, I need to just go to the toilet for a second. I'll be back.
That's okay, no worries.
I'm not going to drop as big a shit as Stephen Moffat did with this one.
Well, don't rush it.
Like he did. Oh dear.
This is a tea time stream, isn't it? Oh, yeah.
Something like that,
Ah, dearie me.
yeah.
It just seems that way, you know, but sometimes the show is just hell bent on undermining itself.
Oh, yes, very good, sir. Well done. You managed to get that in there. Well done. Oh dear.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Gallifrey.
Yes.
Last scene at the end of Day of the Doctor.
Yep.
Lost, then found by accident.
Yeah, but pure accident. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically. An episode set on Gallifrey should be the most exciting thing for a Doctor Who fan.
Should have been. Wasn't though.
But that wasn't really how this story came across.
Not really, was it? Let's be honest. No. No.
Right, look, the Doctor steps out the portal. He's now on the surface of Gallifrey. And the High Council is shitting bricks.
Of
So
course.
he's here, yes, he's here, yes, him, sort of thing. They're really, really quite worried about it. And the Doctor heads over to the
Back
Sheboggans,
bitches. Sorry, sad to say.
and you know, they offer him hospitality, and he's sat out in front having a bowl of soup. When a couple of Time Lords turn up to talk to him, and the Doctor tells them to just sod off and go away.
Yep.
And then I know a whole bunch turn up, and he tells them to all sod off and go away. And then Gallifrey, and then Rassilon and the High Council, backed up by lots of gunships, turn up.
Yes.
And the Doctor initiates a confrontation by drawing a line in the sand and basically saying, "You won't cross it." And then calling more ships to come and arrest Rassilon instead, which is what actually happens. Because the people of Gallifrey would rather arrest Rassilon than arrest the Doctor. So Rassilon is then exiled from Gallifrey. And the Doctor is installed as president again. And then the Doctor learns that it's Rassilon that came up with the plot to trap him into the confession dial. And the reason is that they're all crapping themselves over his prophecy of the hybrid. And they're worried that the Doctor's like the prophecy of doom or something. So the Doctor kind of says, "Oh yeah, right, I'll help with that," but he's completely lying, and all he's really interested in is getting a time block, so that he can nab Clara out of her time stream, and then escape with her in the TARDIS, and basically try to cheat time, to cheat death. So the Doctor pulls a stager on the General and shoots him fatally, causing him to regenerate. For the first time, we see a male Time Lord become a female Time Lord.
Oh God!
Oh fuck me!
This was a final proof, as if any more was needed after Missy, that feminists had Stephen Moffat by the balls.
And then we go escape further down into the catacombs.
Actually, before that, we get the line, "Oh, I'm not a man anymore. How do we deal with all that ego?"
Yes, we do. Yes. And then we're down in the catacombs, and there's Daleks and Cybermen and Weeping Angels being absorbed into the wall by the Matrix to protect Gallifrey. And of course, there's these Matrix ghosts wandering around the place. So other Time Lords don't really want to come in here, but the Doctor doesn't really seem to give a crap. And he opens an inspection hatch and drops through into a TARDIS maintenance bay, and nicks another TARDIS and picks up Clara, and they leave Gallifrey.
Yeah.
And the Doctor's trying to make this work. You know, he's trying to make it so that Clara lives. But time won't let it happen because he remembers. And as long as he remembers, it's a paradox. And so her heart won't restart or something. So one of them has to forget the other. So the Doctor comes up with this cockamamie way of randomizing who gets their memory wiped. But it's the Doctor who gets his memory wiped to Clara. And we're led to believe that had to happen because he's so nuts obsessed with her, but only by being forced to forget her because she's so totally awesome. Will he ever be right in the head again?
Oh, God.
And I mean, as a result of that, the Doctor picks up his own TARDIS in the Nevada desert where it's been painted with flowers. After meeting with a shielder outside the end of the universe, outside Gallifrey, where it turns out that nobody really seems to know who the hybrid is, and no one really seems to care anyway. And Clara buggers off with her in the new TARDIS thing, and she's taking a long way back to Gallifrey, so she's like never going to get back there ever, really. In her own TARDIS, living forever with an immortal girlfriend.
Yeah,
because that's how companions should leave the show.
Yeah,
for real this time.
Brilliant. Awesome.
But it felt a bit like being rewarded when you shouldn't have been.
Indeed.
Well, I was going to sum up with 2 words. Hot mess. Underline.
Utter shite.
Go to town on this episode. Go.
Oh God, where to begin?
And off we go.
To start with, this one, I completely agree with that sentiment that this was the most controversial one pre-Timeless Children, because, I mean, not only because of the SJW shit, which is a given at this point in the show. You know, I mean, both like Stephen Moffat and the 12th Doctor's balls have they've already been chopped off. We don't actually need to make it official, but still, at any rate, this episode, like the Timeless Children, actually did come up with a stupid retcon to the Doctor's origins. Here, it's explained that he left Gallifrey because he'd read about the stupid prophecy about the hybrid. And he didn't leave because he wanted to explore the universe. He was running all this time to get away from this prophecy. And the prophecy is revealed to be, rather than a Dalek Time Lord, a human and a Time Lord, two beings that love each other so much they'll destroy the universe to save each other. The Doctor and Clara. So basically, he's completely retconned the Doctor's origins from being kind of the ultimate, you know, scientist wanting to learn about things into a shitty Mills and Boone story. That's what he's done. Yeah. It's utter bollocks. And also, the return of the Time Lords is possibly the biggest anticlimax of all time. Donald Sumter, who's normally a good actor, is fucking woeful as Rassilon. And Rassilon's only in it for 2 minutes. I mean, it's a joke. And also, I mean, again, it's a shame because I do like the guy that plays the General. He's a really good actor who's not normally, he's more of a stage actor. But again, they dump him for this other woman like 20 minutes in. They completely waste him. And yeah, again, it's typical Stephen Moffat bullshit. I mean, I can't remember. I think someone counted how many times he'd done this. I'm not going to.
It was just underlining the message from the season before. Doctor Who's going to be female next.
Oh, God.
That's all it was.
It's so embarrassing.
All it was.
But also, like, bringing Clara back, as I said, that's something Stephen Moffat has done so many times. He's done it with Rory and Amy, obviously. He did it with Jenny and Strax. He did it with Osgood. He's done it with Clara about 3 fucking times. I mean, by this stage, the thing's a farce. Look,
fandom was rightly extremely sarcastic about this by this point.
Oh,
it was so blatantly, just a bad writing habit of just undo shit.
Also,
which is exactly what fans don't want. Fans want shit to matter.
Oh, I know. That's why I can't. If there's one thing I cannot stand, it's this Doctor Who has no continuity shit. Because, that's what leads to this kind of crap of where nothing matters. We'll just bring so and so back. We won't bother explaining it, and it drives me mad. But this is probably the worst example.
So Sadako says Rassilon was wasted. I disagree. Gallifrey was wasted.
Oh, yeah.
All of it was wasted. Because it wasn't a Gallifrey story.
No.
Other than the Doctor needed to steal a MacGuffin to make Clara not dead.
Sorry, can I ask... Oh, that's one other thing. This actually, it's funny because the previous one demonstrated Stephen Moffat's strengths as a writer with like the horror elements, but this one demonstrates the things that piss me off so much about him, where every fucking character has to talk in this ridiculously flowery, over-the-top way. It's like he wants each quote to be a Tears in the Rain speech from Blade Runner, not realizing that only works because that's the only speech like that.
Yeah, it is the only sentimental. I mean, the only time that film is sentimental. You're absolutely right.
And
that's why it works.
That's so annoying. Everyone talks like, Doctor, where are you being cowardly? Oh, hope is a terrible thing on the scaffolding. Oh, my tomorrows aren't promised. It's like, well, will you just talk like a fucking normal person?
Yeah.
It comes over more Bernard Cribbins and Faulty Towers. Remember when he's, is it possible to reserve the television channel for the duration of this televisual feast? That's what it's like. Drives me up the wall. And this is bottom of the barrel. I don't think it's quite as bad as Death in Heaven, only because by this stage Death in Heaven's already damaged the brand. But yeah, this is about as low as.
Let's ask this question: why does New Who hate Gallifrey?
I know. I don't get that. Why do they hate the Time Lords? Why do they? In every way it's possible, they fucked over the Time Lords. They've killed them off. They've made them evil for some reason, and now they've robbed them of being the Doctor's own people. Why the fuck do they hate the Time Lords so much? It's insane.
They represent the patriarchy.
Oh, yeah.
They represent the British
They did.
Empire.
They had a female as the president in Trial of a Time Lord. Remember? So I mean, it's like,
Yeah. Wow, Grand Inquisitor. But...
That's always what I find funny, right? Yeah, you have these science fiction properties, and there'll be like a totalitarian group of people, and it's filled with all white men, and you think, oh, this is bad messaging already. But then they insert like a black woman, and I'm thinking, okay, so what are you actually trying to tell us here? Well, they could be evil too. It's like, it's like certain films now, they're like, oh, we should diversify the Nazis in historical films. I'm thinking, well, what actually does that say? Like, think about it for a minute.
Oh, that's the problem. They never think.
It's just like Black Panther, where they're like, oh, we're going to fight against the white oppressors, when Wakanda is a bloody ethno-state.
oh.
Exactly.
Well, ironically, I mean, they're such idiots. They don't realize, like, every group in history can be evil. I mean, that's the point. It's not. If anyone who thinks it's just white people that, are guilty of racism is idiotic. I mean, it's like, look at what the Japanese did to the Chinese in World War II. They were so brutal to the Chinese. Even the Nazis begged them to show clemency. The fucking Nazis. That's...
I mean, you know you're doing bad when the Nazis are begging for you.
When the Nazis are going, oh, hang on, that's a bit much.
Yes, step one of that, boys.
Wind this back a bit. You're making us look good.
It's not funny,
every race can be shit, which is why they're like, the emphasis on. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to swear there, guys. Sorry. So every race can be bad, but I mean, I agree with Golden Age Geek. It's like this, like trying to thinking you're making a patriarchal society look good by just inserting a black woman who's just as corrupt as the others. It's like that. That's a stupid message to send.
Indeed.
Well, it's so superficial. Look, I was a white man, now I'm a black woman. What else has changed? Nothing.
Ironically, it serves as quite a good critique. I mean, it wasn't intended this way, but it serves as an unintentionally good critique of real life politics things, because that's basically what Hillary Clinton and Obama were. They run the same crooked, awful warmongering system in exactly the same ways that awful white men before them, like Bush. But idiots think they're, like a beacon of hope just because one's a woman and one's a black guy, even though it makes no difference. Like, if you're corrupt, you're corrupt. So, yeah, I suppose Moffat unintentionally did a good critique of that there by having a white man and a black woman.
A couple of things we need to pick up here. Firstly, hello, TARDIS Spider.
Yeah,
I hope you're doing well.
Oh, yeah, sorry, hi. Yeah.
Bobby75 asks, how did the Time Lords escape the Pocket Universe? To which the answer is, because they needed to. I mean, that's basically it. They got bored because living in one frozen moment as paintings with the Doctor to fail to find them. So they just, if you want something done, do it yourself.
Yeah, I remember this scene. When the Doctor and Clara are in the catacombs, Clara says to the Doctor, "How are we on Gallifrey? I thought Gallifrey was frozen." And he goes, "Well, I guess it unfroze." That's
the level of explanation.
Remember when Tom Baker said, "Oh, you've got so much work to do in finding Gallifrey"? Turns out he didn't. I mean, again, Stephen Moffat, he's got nothing planned ahead. He just writes it like in spur of the moment, and he never bothers to make sure it fits with what came before. He's awful.
Yeah, well, they should rechange the
lines.
Yeah,
but he's got enough raw talent to make it average. Whereas when Chris Chibnall tried that,
that's
total shit. So
yeah,
I mean,
they should have redubbed that now with Tom Baker saying, to find Gallifrey, just hang on a bit, it'll just turn back up on its own. You haven't really got to do anything. Trust me, you'll be fine. He'll just come back. Don't worry about it.
That could have been a good story, him trying to find Gallifrey, and but it
should have been nowhere. Should have been.
Yeah, should have been exactly.
I mean, this season finale should have been the Doctor needed to find the Time Lords.
Yes.
Oh, it's so
that
bad.
Would have been a bit better than what we got. But I mean, to answer my own question, does New Who hate the Time Lords? It's like this. Atlantis, Lemuria, Numenor, Asgard, Olympus, and of course Gallifrey. It's in the same order of fictional places, and it seems like we're just not allowed the notion of a fantasy superior society.
I don't know why, because it's a good idea in fantasy. I mean, like, not even just for being inspiring, it's a good idea, like, because there's lots you can do with it, you know?
Well, I don't know that Gallifrey should have been a shining jewel in the night, because, you know, there's the flip side to Atlantis is R'lyeh. You know, you can invert it. You can show that there's something dark at the heart of it all.
Yeah.
You know? And I think Doctor Who's quite good when it does that. But this was just nonsense from start to finish in terms of why anything.
Yeah.
And the only thing the Doctor had to say to his own people was, "Give us a thing to save Clara's life now, or you're dead."
Oh, sorry. Actually, I wouldn't say it. I said Golden
That's
Age.
basically it, isn't it?
Oh, it is. But yeah, Golden Age Geek. What did you think? Because this
Up
is
yours, fuck you, sod you, I don't care, finger.
No, I agree. But I was just going to ask you, Golden Age Geek, what do you think of the infamous moment? Because obviously, I think I've hogged a wee bit, where the Doctor shoots a man unarmed just to save Clara. I mean, that moment really pissed everybody off.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of instances this season where, you know, going back to the Zygon inversion speech, where, you know, the Doctor says, "Never violence, we just speak, we just talk out our problems," and then consistently, all the episodes afterwards, you know, threatening genocide on the refugees in the bloody street, and then you've got him shooting people, and oh god, it's a mess.
Can we just jump in? Totally spoilers, but he's doing well. His prognosis is good. Have a celebratory video planned for Bell Day. I hope we will all watch.
Oh yeah, make sure you let us know. We'll definitely watch it.
On Bell Day, mate. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's great news that, you know, that's gone that way for you, mate. We're really chuffed for you. We really are.
Sadako says, "Why should it bother people he didn't save his companion?" I mean, it is, but yeah, he also says this does feel mean-spirited in his contempt for Gallifrey. Is that meant to be slightly sarcastic? I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, I mean, I'll answer Sadako's other question that I think, and also Time Prophet's question about how he's used a gun. Well, I agree. I think it's stupid in New Who when they make out, he never uses guns. But there's a difference. I don't think he should shoot an unarmed person if they're defenseless. He should only do it in self-defense. And second of all, the whole part of why I liked the Doctor was he was quite an old, sort of distant alien who understood loss, you know, because he'd obviously been through it. I mean, his children are possibly dead, hence why he's got Susan in his care. So having it that he can't cope with Clara's loss to the point where he's going to destroy the entire universe just for the possibility of
hang on a minute. If you're Gobby, your opinion.
Yes.
If you're somebody who understands loss,
yes,
and you have affection for somebody,
yes,
would you let that person go on a rampage of self-destruction because of loss?
No.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah,
no,
that's the thing.
It makes
you
no
know.
sense.
I mean, the general should not have sat there and go, "Just murder me." Yeah, all right, you're the Doctor. I owe you one of my lives. You know, the general should have tackled him. You know, stay him to the ground, trying to rugby tackle him. For God's sake, don't let him stand like a Sid, but just go kill me then. It doesn't make sense.
No.
You know, because you're talking about this character understanding loss. Yeah, but it doesn't make sense of what he does.
No, I was meaning the Doctor understands loss. Like the Doctor's been.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you were talking about the general understanding of the Doctor's loss, and that's why he's prepared to.
No.
Stand back and let him shoot him. You know.
No, that's what I was saying. The Doctor, like, is a character who's been through loss.
I'm with it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like as I said, that's like Susan is in his care, and like, because presumably his children are dead, and you see him like when he loses Adric, and they want to go back and change history. He's the one that tells them they can't do that. So I think to have him now react, like a young man losing his wife, and as I said, he risked destroying the universe to save her. He went through all that. To me, that was very out of character, and it's not something you should have the Doctor do. And it's also another example of making Clara the most important person, because why is he going to this effort just to save her?
I don't know.
The other people that have died.
Everybody else in the universe dies. What's their problem?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So I think that goes against the character of the Doctor, personally, as is also having him shoot someone unarmed. Again, he can shoot people, but it has to be if there's no other choice, having him do that.
Why can he not accept her loss? It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, how many companions has he lost along the way?
This is a man. This is a man who, at one point in his life, believed that his entire species was dead.
Exactly.
Yeah, everyone he'd ever loved and known was dead, and he can't accept that someone killed themselves for the stupid consequences of their own stupid actions.
And how long
he goes nuts.
How long has he known Clara for? Anyway, he's known her for 2 years. So I mean, it's not like she's someone he's known since he was William Hartnell. It's a bit of a ridiculous, idea that he'd go to that extent to save one companion. I don't like that.
Well, if you had to come up with a storyline this stupid just to write out the character, thank God she was gone.
Indeed.
I just don't really understand why the Doctor goes on this rampage, because he brings Clara back just so. I mean, he already has it planned out.
Any of us do.
Just so one of them can have their memories wiped of the other. But here's the thing: when you hear the idea that the Doctor wants to bring Clara back, you think that he wants to continue to go on adventures with her. But just removing each other from each other's memories, it's just the same as being dead at that point. But, also, wouldn't you rather, if someone died, have memory of them? It's
exactly
confusing.
Exactly. Why would you bring somebody back to forget them?
Yeah, Moffat makes the Doctor betray his core principles, but it's not because he's put into that position. The Doctor causes himself to be in that position, so it's just absolutely confusing.
Well, I disagree that losing your memory is akin to death, because there is a bit of a difference between consciousness and memory. I mean, they're linked, but there is a bit of a difference between them. I mean, there have been cases of people who've lost their memories, but their core personalities have, remained the same in some respects. But I mean, for instance, you wouldn't become a murderer without your memories, because that's not who you are. So,
yeah, but the whole point of the memory wasn't that their entire memories get wiped. It's just memories of each other. So I don't really see why the Doctor's trying to bring her back just for knowledge of each other to be gone. It makes no sense.
Well, I don't understand why forgetting her would make time forget her.
Yeah, that's fairy tale.
That is just rubbish on every level. That really doesn't work as any kind of explanation for why anything is. But
it kind of makes the Time Lord Victorious story arc redundant, because you had in the Waters of Mars the Doctor trying to force time to bend his will, and it turns out that no, actually more people die and more tragedy happens. So it kind of implies that he didn't really learn anything from that.
Yeah, absolutely right.
See, actually, that's a very good point, because I think Waters of Mars did a better take on the idea, because it wasn't just the Doctor couldn't cope with losing someone. It was without the Time Lords around, he's the only one that has that kind of power. It makes sense that it might go to his head a wee bit. Same way it would go to anyone's head, of thinking, I can, actually rewrite the history of the universe. And, so that's a better take on it than just, I can't get over, losing someone. It's a bit and that's a bit a better take on the idea. I agree with that.
Well, should we go for some scores, because time's ticking?
I do briefly want to talk about what is very good about this story.
Yeah,
the production values.
Oh yeah,
It looks very, very good.
The old TARDIS set is brilliant. I so wish
Gallifrey
they
looks
used it.
wonderful. The crypt stuff is fantastically evocative. All the CGI all just works wonderfully. The exterior stuff, it all works really well. But yeah, the pièce de résistance is taking us back into an authentic, original style TARDIS.
Yeah.
Which
that was good.
Yeah, that was very good.
It was
It's really very good. Can I play with the levers, please?
This was used,
Yeah. So I mean, that was all great. That was all people trying to do good stuff with this, but the whole series, I mean, at this point, fandom was saying, God, this series arc idea, it's a bit stale, isn't it? Because this arc didn't work for anybody. When you come up with a story that nobody even cares about, and no one did care who the hybrid is, because nothing came of it. It was consequential to nothing.
No,
so it didn't matter. So why remember it?
Exactly.
So what a waste of a series arc.
Yes.
When just in this episode, we've suggested alternatives that this story could have been about the Doctor needing to find Gallifrey. Well, maybe if he needed to find Gallifrey because he needed to save Clara, that might have made something of it.
Yeah.
It just felt like Moffat really wanted to do other things and wasn't giving a damn at this point. But it's so weird that some of that he could put in the scripts as good as Heaven Sent, and then bring in Hal Brent. I mean, what was going on with his brain? Nothing good.
No, clearly not.
And I mean, the one thing I've said about Moffat, we now know we'll be writing for Doctor Who again.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
But he was always better when he just had his episode to focus on.
Yes, this is true.
And it seems like Heaven Sent is so much of a bottle show. It's the ultimate bottle show. And the rest of the season has gone to hang. And a week or two he's banging out that script, he was just focused on telling a really good self-contained 45-minute story. But when he had to sort of open it up again to his grand plan for the season, it just didn't land. He just hadn't thought it through, or not so much didn't think it through. The components didn't work, especially the component called Clara. And if Clara hadn't been a problem, this story wouldn't exist, because there wouldn't need to be a story to fix the Clara problem.
Indeed.
Not that I think this fixed it.
No.
I mean, just bringing someone back from a death and then rewarding them with immortality in a TARDIS.
Yeah.
After they died being really stupid up themselves.
Being stupid, yeah.
Look. It didn't work for me.
No.
I didn't think this was a good ending. I only thought anything was good about it was that it was an ending.
Yeah. Yes. So, should we go for the scores, guys? Because we're going to run out of time otherwise.
Sugarations. We'll have to be quicker. We've got 2 Christmas specials.
2 specials to crack out in 15 minutes.
We're only going to do one.
Yeah. It's all right.
We're only going to do one. Right, Hellbent. To hell with it. E.
Oh, straight out there.
Even the good bits, I'm beyond caring. This was such rubbish.
Yeah.
This is why Series 9 is where it is in the reputation of fandom.
Absolutely.
Because, it was the worst that we'd received. We couldn't really imagine it being worse. Poor innocent fools that we were.
Yeah.
But we thought at the time that this was pretty bad, and I was pretty happy with what came afterwards. I thought it was very much a step in a better direction. But this was the nadir. This is everything wrong with Stephen Moffat's time as showrunner, distilled into one episode. And to hell with it, I've said that already, but
I'll have to agree. Absolutely, E minus. This was just after the episode before. This was such a letdown.
We refuse to be baited with a sexy goddamn TARDIS, don't we, Gobby?
Yes, we do.
We're not going to let that work on us.
No, we're not going to let that. Wasn't going to worm its way in. No. This was just after the episode before. This was just so bad. So bad. So many things wrong with it.
And then forcing the female regeneration.
And then
Get it
forcing-
out of our face.
Yeah.
We know what you're doing.
Yeah, you know.
GM, you know.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So no, it was an E-. That's as low as I can give it. How about you,
Right.
Beringer?
Z plus. It's not as bad as Death in Heaven, which is below Z. That's the absolute. That's why I'm giving it a Z plus. But yeah, again, I agree. It's everything shit about Stephen Moffat. It's just a disaster in every way. So Z plus.
How about you, Golden Age Geek?
Can you redeem this story from the pits?
No. E minus. This episode is thick as pig shit. It's just
Yes. Love it. Thick as pig shit. Love it. Right then. One more
yeah.
thing to come at Christmas.
We've had to do a lot of things on this stream. I think we've done very well. You know, but my last thing I expected was to be finishing it trying to find a husband for River Song.
Ah, there we go. Well done, sir. You worked that one in lovely.
That's not an easy one. It's a
No,
bit
that wasn't an
specific.
easy one. Yeah, it's very specific. Oh dear me. So here we go. Christmas special.
Well, one thing I remember about this Christmas special is that my father was in an absolutely dreadful mood and I couldn't squeeze in getting to watch it while visiting. So I had to see it later. Because he don't like that bloody rubbish. Get it off my telly. Oh dear. Poor bugger. But I kind of found this fun.
Yeah.
I did. It's the one that comes afterwards. I really despise. But I found this one kind of fun. But I kind of half the reason I find the next one so bad is that it just rips off and recycles this one. And you know, it's like, oh come on. I mean, but the one thing this has got going for it is some comedy. It's got some laughs. It's got some lightness of tone. It has. It's got some energy. It's really quite jolly in some ways. In other ways, it's deeply disturbing. But in terms of the plot, it's Christmas, of course. The Doctor happens to be hanging out while it's Christmas on the planet Menderax Delora in 5343. Where, due to a case of mistaken identity, he is recruited as a surgeon by his former companion and wife, River Song.
Indeed.
With the help of Nardal, her assistant. And she wants the Doctor to get a diamond out of the head of her husband, the tyrant King Hydroflax, who is basically a head stuck on a robot body with a diamond stuck inside it. So there's a bit of malarkey where the Doctor and River sort of discuss how to get the diamond out of his head, while the Doctor is kind of can't believe River Song doesn't know it's him, because she doesn't need to know it's him, because she doesn't need to know his face. And but they do manage to get basically steal the head, and then they take the head to the rendezvous where they're going to hand over the diamond, and then it's a bunch of people whose heads split open in the middle. Who are actually behind the whole thing, and but they manage to wiggle it so that the ship they're on crashes, and they get away with the diamond still, which is just as well, because the Starship Harmony and Redemption crashes on the planet Darillium, also known as the famous location of the restaurant where there's these singing towers of Darillium, which are like these two big stone pillars that sing nicely when the sun shines the right way or something. And so the Doctor goes, aha, I see an opportunity here. So there's a guy who's basically coming to respond to the spaceship crash. He's like just turned up on his bicycle or something. What the hell's happened? Yeah. And the Doctor goes, you know what? This would be a great place for a restaurant. Here's a ginormous diamond. I'll be back later when you've built it. Back into the TARDIS, pulls the lever. Oh, look, restaurant. So then he has a night with River Song. where they have one more night of romance together as husband and wife, which just happens to be a night on the planet Derillium, where a night lasts 24 years.
Wow.
24 years of boning Alec Kingston.
Not
That's
so
enough to
bad
tire
then,
Peter
again.
Capaldi out. But he went for it anyway. He's a romantic at heart. And so that is the tale of the last encounter between the Doctor and River Song. And then shortly after this, River, with her new present of a sonic screwdriver, is going to head off to the library, and where, of course, she will be saved.
Yes.
So tying up the whole River Song plot line with a big bow and going, that's all false.
Yeah,
Did
all
it
done.
work? Golden Age Geek.
This episode is there is a weird thing about this episode, right? Because it is much longer than your traditional Doctor Who episode, but it always seems to go very fast whenever I watch it because it has a very simple structure. You know, they go from A to B to C. But no, I agree. This episode is just a little bit of fun, as it should be with a Christmas special.
Yeah.
We do get an introduction to I believe they're called the Harmony Shoal. They don't.
That's it.
I mean,
The
they're
people whose
they're
heads split open.
yeah, I mean they're okay. They're not that compelling, to be quite honest. What I would say is the scenes that I remember most from this episode is when they get onto Derillium. I mean, the soundtrack for that scene when they're overlooking the singing towers, that's a very beautiful scene, and I do love the music that goes along with that.
Absolutely.
Again, Moffat sort of tying everything up. You know, the next season's going to be his last, so tying up all of his plot points that he started back in the Russell era. It was good to see that. All come together like that. The moments between Capaldi and Kingston, especially in the restaurant where she's gobbing off and he just looks at her and she, glances over and he says, "Hello, sweetie." that is a funny moment. I do like that. But yeah, their chemistry works. They did kind of rip off Big Hero 6 with the big red machine thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
I have not seen that film, so that reference might have passed over me at the time.
Well, imagine the red thing painted white, Big Hero 6.
Well,
I mean,
red thing painted white. Yeah.
Well, actually, 20 minutes into Big Hero 6, it is actually red. So
yeah, it is actually red.
It's a legit rip-off.
Yes, I agree massively. We'll call it the Big Hero.
But no, it's just a bit of fun, really. I do like.
Yeah, it's just a good giggle. It is a good Christmas giggle. You can't knock it for that. It was all right. It was a nice, simple, Christmassy, fun, enjoyable story. And
I'll put a link in the private chat for the suit comparison.
All right. Let's have a look. Oh yes. Oh God, yeah. Oh my dear Lord. Yes. Well, I'll see if I can get that to pop up on the screen. So, but carry on, and I'll see what I can do. Oh dear. So,
well, I mean, this story is also the introduction of Nardole. Not in his ultimate form, because I think he's still a flesh and blood human at the start of this. This is before, and then he gets cyborged as a result. But I mean, the addition of Matt Lucas as a companion, he seems to get very overlooked. But I mean, he did add something, didn't he?
Yes.
Because especially when we get into Series 10, if the Doctor and Bill are arguing, it doesn't have the same feeling as the Doctor and Clara are arguing, because you've got Nardole there who's willing to poke the piss both sides.
Yeah.
And that works quite well at dissipating pomposity of either of them. It keeps it real, kind of thing. So, and he's not quite in the same role here. I mean, he's very much comic relief in this and the next episode. But nevertheless, here he is entering the cast. And, I rather appreciated Matt Lucas alongside Peter Capaldi. I thought that he worked quite well as the Doctor's jester.
Yeah.
Which is effectively what the character is. And so I'm pleased to see him in this. I think it's a welcome introduction. And, I think, the addition of Matt Lucas alongside Peter Capaldi, I thought that he worked quite well as the Doctor's jester. Which is effectively what the character is. And so I'm pleased to see him in this. I think it's a welcome introduction. And, I think, the addition of Matt Lucas alongside Peter Capaldi, I thought that he worked quite well as the Doctor's jester. Which is effectively what the character is. And so I'm pleased to see him in this. I think it's a welcome introduction. And, I think, the addition of Matt Lucas alongside Peter Capaldi, I thought that he worked quite well as the Doctor's jester. Which is effectively what the character is. And so I'm pleased to see him in this. I think it's a welcome introduction. And, I think, the addition of Matt Lucas alongside Peter Capaldi, I thought that he worked quite well as the Doctor's jester. Which is effectively what the character is. And so I'm pleased to see him in this. I think it's a welcome introduction. And, I think, the addition of Matt I mean, I suppose this is the time to reflect on River Song as a whole. You know, Silence of the Library, through Flesh and Blood, Time of Angels, through the Pandorica Opens, through whatever else there was that came next, or Wedding of River Song, you know, the husband of River Song.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was a bold idea. But I think if a character of River didn't work for you, then you were screwed with it. You had nowhere to go, and everything else that came with it was all shoving it down your throat. So I can quite understand how some people really can't stand River Song. But I always thought Alec Kingston put in a good performance and delivered the lines well with wit and sparkle. She is kind of quite charismatic. And you know, I thought that she was able to handle what the show threw at her very well. I certainly think it's fair to say Alec Kingston is a female who could have played the Doctor.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree because I don't think any woman should play the Doctor. I think it's a bad idea to turn the Doctor into a woman.
Well, I mean, okay, but put her next to Alec Kingston. Not Alec Kingston. Put Alec Kingston next to Michelle Gomez. Put Michelle Gomez next to Catherine Tate, and put all three of them next to Jodie Whittaker, and you know, it draws its own line, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, to be honest, even then, I'm sorry. I think it would be an awful idea. I just don't. I would never ever do it in a billion years. I think it should, and to be honest, like I think it should just rather than pander.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, whether you want to do it for the show or not, let's recognise Alec Kingston's qualities as an actor.
Oh well, yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point that I'm making here.
Yeah, no,
she
fair
brought
enough,
that to River, and I think that a lesser actor might have got completely lost in it. To be honest with you.
Well, I mean,
so I think she deserves a lot of credit for that.
I've kind of gone back and forth a bit, River. I really do like Alex Kingston. I think she's gorgeous. I think she's, you know, a really talented actress. I mean, I'd marry her definitely. Like, you know, I'd fight the Doctor for her. And she was in some good stories. Like the Library one was really good, and I think she brought a lot to the Weeping Angels two-parter. That's one of my favorite Matt Smith ones.
She really did. Yeah. She's a big part of selling the whole tension of that story.
They definitely overused her. I think I was put off of her by season 6 because that was one where it was clearly obvious Stephen Moffat didn't really have any idea where to go with it, and it just tangled itself up in knots. And the Wedding of River Song shit. And after that, she was just kind of incidental. I mean, as for my opinions on this one, well, plus I don't really have any opinions. This is a fairly bland, forgettable story. It's not offensive, but by this stage, to be honest, I think I probably wouldn't have minded Husbands of River Song if it had come, like, say, after series 5 when I was feeling really good. But because my love for Doctor Who was at an all-time low,
it would have had to come at least after Day of the Doctor, wouldn't it?
Oh well, yeah, I didn't mean plot-wise. This meant in terms of quality.
Like I mean, this could have been the series 8 Christmas special, not the series 9.
Yeah, it could have been. That's what I mean. It's an okay story, but it's just to come after such a bad season. Series 9.
Having said that, if you'd have kind of resolved the Doctor's relationship with River before getting rid of Clara, you know what would have happened.
Well, yeah, true. It would have been 2. But again, I'd have dumped Clara at the end of series 8.
It was only kind of safe to do this one once Clara was already out of the way.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I agree. But basically, I don't have much to say about this one. I mean, I like River Song, and you know, I was a bit jealous.
We also have to consider the time because we're now pushing up against it. I find it hard to believe we've been talking 2.5 hours.
I know, yeah.
Amazing.
You know, I mean, I personally think I could do another half hour at least, but we aren't going to overstretch it. So let's resolve this with scores for the Husband of River Song. Burrinjaw, do you have a score ready?
Probably a C-. It's as average as you get, but not bad.
Average it. Golden Age Geek.
I'd go with a B.
B. Why? Why a B? Just let's interrogate that for a moment. What was lifting it from average to better than average?
Well, I just like that the majority of the Christmas specials, they feel like they coincident. Well, I say that. I don't know. I find it a fun adventure. It was maybe it's because of the episodes beforehand had been a bit shit. So when you're shown something that isn't like that, you immediately think, this is miles better. I don't know. I just
Well,
I
it
just
was
have
a bit of a
fondness for it.
palate cleanser after all of that, wasn't it? Because you knew Clara wasn't going to be in it.
Yeah.
So, it had
And
that going for it.
seen as Moffat, when Moffat started writing all of his episodes, they always ended a bit sort of doom and gloom. I mean, when he started out in the Russell era, it was very uplifting, with Everybody Lives and all that. But when Moffat started doing it in his own era, it did seem like it seemed like when he was writing it, he was getting depressed and just gradually more depressed each time. But this one actually felt like, oh no, for once, actually, there's a good resolution, with the fact that the night is 24 years. That felt like something that Moffat would have done in the early stages.
I mean, I don't see how it could have got a better resolution.
No.
30 years? I don't know, maybe.
Oh, there is a limit though. 24 is long enough, I think.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say no to 30 years of banging Alex Kingston.
Well, there is that. I mean, there is that. There is that.
Yeah. But no, I agree with you. Yeah. It was a happy ending.
Yeah,
So does that resolve to? Does this resolve to? Oh yeah, you gone for B, didn't you? You went for B plus. Is that right?
Yeah.
B plus. Gobby.
I'll go C plus.
C plus.
Yeah, I did quite enjoy it. Yeah, but not that much. But it was a good Christmas thing. It was enjoyable. It was a bit of fun.
It's certainly watchable.
Yeah, it's
certainly
watchable.
I'm going to stretch to B minus.
Oh,
so just one thing to mention.
I did like Matt Smith coming in, Matt Lucas coming in. I mean, I actually appreciated it. I had fun with that. So I'll give it a little uptick to B minus. Otherwise, I'd go C plus with you, Gobby.
So
right,
one thing.
We're out of time, aren't we, gang?
Yeah, it was just one thing to mention about the Wedding of River. It's not the Wedding of River song, the Husbands of River song.
Yeah.
That was intended to be Stephen Moffat's last episode. They had to sort of arm wrestle him into doing another series. So it's interesting to think that would have been the full stop in his entire era had things been a bit different.
It would have been very different indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad we got Series 10 because I think we're going to find Series 10 was a definite improvement on Series 10.
Huge improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can pretty confident now that we're going. And it's nice to know that we probably got the best of Capaldi seasons ahead of us to review now.
Yeah.
Because we are coming not just to the end of tonight's episode, we are getting close to the end of working our way through From an Earthly Child. And then afterwards, we're going to do a few specials.
Yes, we are.
Because there are other plans also cooking of an Evil Federation kind.
Love Blake 7.
We've just having so much fun, but we also, I'm somewhat relieved we had this in sight now.
Yes, I was about to say, but yeah, it's been.
But what a fantastic journey, and we've got a couple more to go, and then some specials. We're going to have some real fun.
Yes, we will.
Everybody is of course welcome to join us same time next week.
Indeed.
And thank you everybody. Thank you Golden Age Geek. Thank you Bojo, and of course, as always, wherever you've had him, thank you, Gobby.
You're more than welcome. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, as we bring this one to a close, I'd like to say thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to everyone who's been in the chat, which has been trundling on quite nicely. So we shall look forward to catching you same time, same place. And I hope you all have an enjoyable weekend. Goodbye.